Chapter 579. Turning his hand to create clouds, turning his hand to create rain. These 8 words were vividly displayed on Lin Yuan. The Council of the Demon Emperor, the embroidered uniform guards, the Qiao family, the Shui family, and even the organizations and government offices of the northern frontier in name, under Lin Yuan's command, did not have the strength to fight. Except for a few who chose to surrender and those who were willing to accept the investigation with a clear conscience, all those who resisted did not last long before they were completely wiped out. The one that lasted the longest was the Qiao family. 2/3 of the incense stick had been burned away. The older generation and the middle generation of the Qiao family were practically all dead. Only a few young members of the Qiao family who did not participate in the battle were left behind, trembling among the old, weak, women, and children. Of course, for people like Xiao Yilan who had been called out by Lin Yuan, although their injuries were not light, they were still kept alive. They were sent to the princely estate of the northern frontier to await further punishment. As for those who had not been called out, they were either detained or killed. Their names and titles were not asked. The Blackwater Army, Yi Buzhao, and a portion of the embroidered uniform guards, under Lin Yuan's command, were like emotionless and cold machines. They perfectly carried out all the orders that Lin Yuan gave. 4 hours later, Lin Yuan, Qin Yu, Li Zhong, and Zhang Xiuzhu were sitting in the front hall of the princely estate. Zhao Guangchong was kneeling on one knee in the center of the front hall. He lowered his head, not daring to look directly at Lin Yuan. Outside, the wounded that had resisted Lin Yuan's summons were strewn everywhere. There were also some people who had also been called out but had chosen to accept the summons. Although these people were kneeling on the ground, when they saw the wounded, they also rejoiced incomparably. Zhao Guangchong did not dare to look at Lin Yuan, nor did he dare to turn his head to look at the people who had been summoned. Because he had discovered that there were many people carrying out the mission tonight. And besides him, everyone else had perfectly completed their mission. For example, Qin Yu, who had a good relationship with him, had not only brought Luo Su back intact, he had even eaten a mutton hot pot, looking at Qin Yu, and then looking at him. If you compare goods, you'll throw them away. If you compare people, you'll die. Shi Dong was the vice president of the Association of the Demon Emperor, and his subordinates were no less powerful than Luo Su. He and Qin Yu were both battalion commanders of the Blackwater Army. In fact, his men were the type that specialized in close combat. In this kind of battle where the outcome of the summons was uncertain, he and his men would have the advantage. In the end, because of his heroism, he had left his men outside while he infiltrated the Council of the Demon Emperor, intending to capture Shi Dong. In the end, Shi Dong had swaggered away. Although Shi Dong had already prepared a backup plan, he still had to take full responsibility. For example, if he had led his men to charge in, and Shi Dong had escaped through the secret passage, his responsibility would not be great. He could even participate in the subsequent pursuit of Shi Dong to atone for his crimes. Because no one had expected Shi Dong to build a secret passage in his office, and at the same time, to raise a powerful men of sacrifice to protect him. Therefore, this kind of mistake was acceptable. But he had rushed in alone and was stopped by Shi Dong's men of sacrifice. He had to take full responsibility for Shi Dong's escape, because this was the result of him acting rashly and alerting the enemy. Some people might even think that even if Zhao Guangchong had brought a few more men, Shi Dong might not have been able to escape. The result was the same, but the punishment was completely different. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes fell on Zhao Guangchong, and he felt his eyelids twitching. Logically speaking, he still liked Zhao Guangchong very much. After all, he was a student that he had personally taught. His cultivation, courage, and talent were all top-notch. In the future, he would definitely become a fierce general like Lu Fengxian, who could take on thousands of soldiers and horses. But he had forgotten that the more this kind of person was, the more likely they were to have a sense of heroism. And the stronger they were, the more obvious this symptom would be. For example, in the history of his previous life, this type of general was almost always obstinate and self-opinionated. At the very least, they would suffer a defeat, and at the very worst, they might even give themselves up because of their own heroism. Lord Dragon King, the secret passage has been excavated. An embroidered uniform guard wearing a flying fish robe strode into the front hall and said in a deep voice, "But the secret passage is very complicated. Not long after walking down the main road, we saw a fork in the road. The deeper we go, the more forks there are. And there are many places with traps. Some of the secret passages can only be found after walking for a long time. We asked people from the Ministry of Works to take a look. They said that there are many forks in this secret passage, and there are at least 3 paths to survival. But as for which 3 paths, we still need time to think." When the embroidered uniform guard finished his report, Zhao Guangchong's face became more and more unsightly. Not long ago, Gao Buzhan captured Wei River City, but because of a secret passage, he let hundreds of thousands of Shenlin Jun's reserve troops escape. As a result, he became the laughingstock of the Northern Frontier Army. Even Gao Buzhan himself found it difficult to fall out with the people who talked about this matter. Zhao Guangchong had also ridiculed Gao Buzhan with others for being so close to the door, but he didn't expect that not long after, he would follow in Gao Buzhan's footsteps. No, it was even worse than Gao Buzhan. Gao Buzhan captured Wei River City, killed most of the Shenlin Jun's reserve troops, and only let some survivors escape. At most, it would be more troublesome to clean up the mess. But when it came to him, he only killed one of Sherdong's guards and let Sherdong swagger away. Even if he could walk out of the Northern Frontier Palace alive today, he would replace Gao Buzhan in the future and become the new laughingstock of the Northern Frontier Army. "Don't bother, I know where that old guy slipped away." Luo Su, who was kneeling in the front yard, yawned. His slightly hoarse voice sounded, faintly revealing a bit of excitement. Li Zhong frowned slightly and asked with a dark face, "You know that Sherdong built a secret passage in his office, and even know where these secret passages lead to. Why didn't you tell us in advance?" "You're asking me?" Luo Su seemed to be very dissatisfied with Li Zhong's words in the previous meeting. He raised his chin and said contemptuously, "His Highness has been boldly and decisively reorganizing the palace guards. Anyone with a discerning eye knows what's going on. I thought that His Highness was blind outside of Shunning City, but I didn't expect that His Highness is not omniscient and omnipotent in Shunning City." "You!" Li Zhong's face changed and he growled. Luo Su didn't intend to leave him any face at all. He did play a dishonorable role in the immortal medicine incident, but he definitely didn't stand on the opposite side of the Northern Frontier. It was just that there were 2 intelligence agencies in the Northern Frontier, the Association of the Demon Emperor and the Genie Guards. Everything had to be fought both openly and secretly. If this continued, everyone in the Northern Frontier would be in danger, so changes had to be made. The simplest way was to continue the balance of power and set up a 3rd intelligence agency to balance the Association of the Demon Emperor and the Genie Guards. He didn't expect that Luo Su even knew about his secret movements. Chapter 580. Luo Su did not give Li Zhong any face. But this was not just directed at Li Zhong alone. Most of the people present felt a chill run down their spines. The terror of the embroidered uniform guard was only revealed now. In the past, everyone felt that the embroidered uniform guard was just a so-so. As the intelligence agency appointed by Lin Yuan, the embroidered uniform guard had countless enviable privileges. It was also because of these privileges that the Association of the Demon Emperor, which was the embroidered uniform guard's opponent, had strengthened a lot. But in fact, not many people took the embroidered uniform guard seriously. Strictly speaking, although the embroidered uniform guard had recruited and trained a batch of newcomers since its establishment, the main force was still the batch that Lin Yuan had selected from the Association of the Demon Emperor. Apart from a change of uniform, they looked no different from the Association of the Demon Emperor. Without the support of the Association of the Demon Emperor's basic personnel scattered around the Northern Frontier, the embroidered uniform guard seemed to have weakened a lot because of this. After losing this support, it was obviously impossible for the embroidered uniform guard to cultivate their own spies overnight. Some people even asserted that if they lost the support of the Northern Frontier Prince's residents, the embroidered uniform guard would be turned into a mere figurehead by the Association of the Demon Emperor at any time. There were also people who sneered at Luo Su's cruel methods, feeling that Luo Su was just a so-so. Without such torture methods, they might not be able to get any information. But at this moment, Luo Su's strength was like a resounding slap on everyone's face. The demon emperor was very powerful. Unknowingly, the embroidered uniform guard had already carried out strict surveillance on Sherdong. While Sherdong was still fighting with Luo Su might have already figured out the color of Sherdong's underwear, the number of documents on his desk, the contents of the documents, and the suggestions to deal with them. He even built tunnels in Sherdong's office. Luo Su also knew where these tunnels led to. But what about Sherdong? He knew nothing about Luo Su. In other words, no one knew anything about Luo Su. In their hearts, Luo Su was still the image of a ruthless official who only knew how to extort confessions through torture. If not for this sudden turn of events, who would have thought that the ruthlessness and cruelty Luo Su showed was just a facade, or it was just the side he wanted people to see? As for those who thought that the embroidered uniform guards were completely supported by the prince's residence in the northern frontier, they felt their faces burning. Isn't Li Zhong powerful enough? He was the hero in the eyes of the people of the northern frontier, and was the most suitable existence to be the king of the northern frontier. Even Lin Yuan had a whole new level of respect for him. He also put aside the authority of the king of the northern frontier. As long as Lin Yuan didn't say anything, Li Zhong could directly make the decisions for the entire northern frontier. But what about Luo Su? He directly investigated Li Zhong, and even knew all of Li Zhong's little movements during this period of time. It should be known that they were now at war. The embroidered uniform guards, who were nominally part of the military system, had transferred a lot of manpower to the battlefield. This was already the weakest time for the embroidered uniform guards. But under these circumstances, Luo Su was still able to keep an eye on Li Zhong and Sherdong. Just based on this point alone, there were too many problems. At this moment, even the northern frontier officials and aristocratic family heads who weren't involved in the Elixir of Immortality project couldn't help but gasp. The scene was like a swarm of snakes coming out. The entire front yard of the prince's residence was filled with hissing sounds. They were a little panicked. Although they didn't have any problems with this matter, sitting in such a high position, who could keep absolutely clean? Even if it didn't violate the laws of the northern frontier, it was not uncommon for them to open the door wide for their own juniors, and hand over some lucrative projects to their own family members to manage. These old and rotten things were unavoidable at any time, and could be considered as behavior that everyone tacitly agreed to. But this tacit agreement obviously wouldn't appear on Luo Su and Lin Yuan. A ruthless and tyrannical king. A cruel and ruthless official who didn't recognize his own family. When this pair of master and servant worked together, even if they wanted to bloody clean up the entire northern frontier, they could find countless legal and reasonable solutions. If nothing unexpected happens, Sherdong is now under arrest. In less than half an hour, he will be sent to the prince's residence. Just as everyone was shocked, Luo Su once again dropped a nuclear bomb. It was as if all this was still within Luo Su's expectations. Just as he had long guessed that this day would come on the northern frontier, and had long guessed Lin Yuan's response, he had also guessed that Sherdong, under such circumstances, would not come to the prince's residence in the northern frontier to accept the investigation as calmly as he did. Therefore, he could leisurely eat mutton pot in his yamen and wait for Qin Yu to come, or he could brazenly cut off Sherdong's escape route. Li Zhong stood in front of Luo Su with his hands behind his back, his eyes full of complex emotions. After a long time, he said with a dark face, "So, I underestimated Commander Luo before." Luo Su's bandaged face curved. Anyone could see that Luo Su was smiling, and it was an incomparably mocking smile. "Even if the prince thinks highly of me, it won't change anything. The methods of the embroidered uniform guard are not something you can understand. Unless you don't recognize your own family, you have no secrets in the eyes of the embroidered uniform guard." Luo Su's voice gradually rose, his tone full of ridicule and sarcasm. In fact, the dispute between the two major intelligence agencies in the northern frontier had already drawn the curtains when the embroidered uniform guard was established. The outcome had long been decided. What kind of person was Luo Su? He was poisoned by the flames of purgatory. If it weren't for the existence of Lin Yuan and Mo Luo, Luo Su would have long been dominated by the ruthlessness and darkness in his heart and become a purgatory demon like Feng Tian, whose whereabouts were unknown. Although he didn't take the elixir of immortality, Lin Yuan was his elixir of immortality. After leaving Lin Yuan, no matter where Luo Su went or who he relied on, the outcome wouldn't change in the slightest. Either he would die a violent death or go crazy. What was the composition of the embroidered uniform guard? The characters trained in the same batch as Yi Busho naturally weren't ordinary people of flesh and blood. Instead, they were humanoid monsters created by Lin Yuan with the help of the system's power. Still, they weren't necessarily loyal to Lin Yuan, but innate factors had already determined that they couldn't harm Lin Yuan and had to rely on Lin Yuan to grow. Therefore, among the many factions in the northern frontier, only Yi Busho and the embroidered uniform guard were completely loyal to Lin Yuan. Because Lin Yuan didn't just create these two troops, he was also the father and god of all the members of these two troops. How could a disloyal organization that relied on Lin Yuan for glory, splendor, wealth, and glory, fight with Lin Yuan's direct subordinates to the death? Chapter 581. Disregard all family? Keep strangers away? Who could do this? No one would be stupid enough to doubt Luo Su's words. Perhaps some people would think that no matter how powerful the embroidered uniform guard was, they could at most make the inconspicuous peddlers on the street or the servants of those with power become their spies and eyes. Then I won't use these people, won't treat them as my confidants. The family and organization I belong to are completely managed by the descendants of the family. Could it be that they would disregard the interests of the entire family and be of one mind with the embroidered uniform guard? The answer was yes. The interests of the family were the interests of the family, and personal interests were personal interests. When personal interests were greater, no one would refuse the temptation of this demon, and would gladly endure it. For example, the brothers of the same generation in a large family, no matter how close they appeared to be, were still competitors and threats to each other behind the scenes. This was because there were only so many upper echelons in a family and an organization, and the positions of absolute power in these upper echelons were even fewer. If I told your scandal to the embroidered uniform guard, the embroidered uniform guard would act against you. Even if you didn't die, you would lose a layer of skin, and even lose the qualifications to inherit the position of family head, family elder, and other positions of power. Even if I am inferior to you in every aspect, I can still suppress you. In front of absolute interests, even family members were not worthy of trust. The drama of father and son killing each other, brothers fighting against each other, existed no matter where it was. Even if the person had no intention of harming the tiger, it was difficult to avoid the tiger harming the person's heart. However, in this situation where he didn't trust anyone and had to do everything by himself, it was difficult for him to achieve anything big. As long as Luo Su was here, the embroidered uniform guard was here, and everyone had to lower their heads. Because of the existence of this pair of eyes, no one could make any small movements under Lin Yuan's eyes. Let's not talk about digressions. Lin Yuan raised his eyelids, and his gaze swept over the faces of his subordinates who had extremely ugly expressions. He said indifferently, I heard that everyone is particularly interested in the elixir of immortality that the prince's residence had previously issued a notice and strictly prohibited. As his voice fell, many people's expressions immediately became unnatural. Who present was not a cultivator? Nearly 90% of them did not cultivate to pursue the great Tao. Instead, they hoped to become stronger and live longer. Only then would they be able to grasp more authority for a longer period of time. Most of them spent more on a single meal than an ordinary northern frontier citizen could earn in 5 or 10 years. With such wealth and power in their hands, who would be willing to miss the opportunity to live forever? How many people would take the northern frontier prince's mansion's announcement to boycott the immortal elixir seriously? Even the Qiao family, who had always been the leader of the aristocratic families in the northern frontier, had unhesitatingly stood by Lin Yuan's side when he suppressed the aristocratic families in the northern frontier. Even the Qiao family couldn't resist this temptation. As the head of the family, Qiao Yilan was one of the first to take the elixir of immortality. What's more, the heads of the small and medium-sized aristocratic families, who relied on the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce for a living, were dissatisfied with Lin Yuan and Li Zhong. They thought that they could outwardly comply with Lin Yuan's orders but inwardly disobey him and not take Lin Yuan's orders seriously. After all, most of the officials in the northern frontier were members of aristocratic families. If Lin Yuan left them, the entire administrative structure of the northern frontier would be paralyzed. Therefore, the aristocratic families of the northern frontier had taken action several times. Only a portion of the leaders were killed. The remaining aristocratic families were only warned and punished. So this time, they still had this thought. Even the aristocratic family heads who had hesitated at the start joined the ranks of those who took the elixir of immortality when they realized more and more people were taking it. Then they realized, they had been tricked. This was not the elixir of immortality at all, but a fatal poison that would make them wish they were dead. Then now, do you have a clear understanding of the elixir of immortality? Lin Yuan asked with a mocking gaze as though he didn't see the expressions of the people in the courtyard. The courtyard remained silent, but everyone's expressions had turned from ugly to gloomy. Still ignoring everyone's expressions, Lin Yuan said slowly, although we haven't worked together for long, you have still contributed to the northern frontier. You can be considered my trusted subordinates. First of all, I have to admit that your idea of the law not punishing the masses is not bad. Although there are no exact statistics, I can be sure that more than 80% of the aristocratic families in the northern frontier have taken the elixir of immortality. If I start the cleanup operation on you, the administrative structure of the northern frontier will be completely paralyzed. At that time, everyone will be very sad. After Lin Yuan finished speaking, everyone's ugly expressions gradually turned for the better. They thought that they were going to visit the gates of hell today. Now, it seemed that this Dragon King was very easy to talk to. Did you think that I was going to take it lightly and just teach you a lesson? Lin Yuan grinned and suddenly changed the topic. He said in a cold voice, I can tell you responsibly that all of you who have taken the elixir of immortality are dead for sure. Everyone raised their heads and stared at Lin Yuan with complicated gazes. There was shock, resentment, and even relief. In truth, most of them were not naive enough to think that after committing such a monstrous crime, Lin Yuan would still let them leave the northern frontier prince's estate alive. Most of those who admitted their wrongs were even prepared to tell everything they knew in exchange for Lin Yuan's leniency. And the condition for this leniency was that Lin Yuan would handle this matter to the extreme. Killing them would be enough, but sparing their families and descendants. But Lin Yuan's words at the beginning had ignited the hope of countless people. But soon, with just a few words, Lin Yuan had personally crushed this thread of hope. At this moment, it was best to describe them as hopeless. From your eyes, you seem to hate me? No one could clearly see Lin Yuan's movements. It was as if in the blink of an eye, Lin Yuan had appeared in front of a scion of a noble clan. They all knew this person. He came from a large noble clan. Whether it was the northern frontier of the past or the current northern frontier, this person had considerable influence. Some time ago, the Northern Frontier Academy had even sent him an invitation, hoping that he could become an instructor at the Northern Frontier Academy and help the Northern Frontier Academy train the commoners. In truth, the opportunity to become an instructor at the Northern Frontier Academy would very rarely fall upon a scion of a noble clan. After all, everyone was of a different class. If these scions of noble clans were to teach commoners the way of becoming an official, the Northern Frontier Academy would be worried that they would take the opportunity to cultivate henchmen and corrupt the atmosphere. Unless this person was truly capable, so capable that he could make the Northern Frontier Academy ignore these drawbacks. Chapter 582. I just don't understand why the Dragon King is wasting his breath on people like us who are about to die. Under the pressure of Lin Yuan's dragon might, that person was unwilling to lower his head, but he couldn't help but avert his gaze, not daring to look directly at Lin Yuan. He had a good background and excellent abilities. If the elixir of immortality hadn't happened, he would have become one of the most powerful figures in the Northern Frontier. He would have even been able to train a large number of disciples from the Northern Frontier Academy. In the future, his descendants would also have had the opportunity to join the embroidered uniform guard. Just thinking about it, one could imagine how bright his future would have been. But now, there was nothing left. He didn't even know if he would be able to leave the northern frontier alive. I really don't need to waste my breath on you. I know very well what the elixir of immortality you took is. From the very beginning, I was very opposed to this kind of thing appearing on the northern frontier. But unfortunately, you, who only have interests in your eyes, once again failed to live up to this king's kindness. Not only did you take the elixir of immortality, you even became an accomplice of the Sky Demon, a member of the so-called protective umbrella. Do you think that as long as you act like a good dog for the Sky Demon, he will give you the antidote, or give you the real elixir of immortality and accept you as a member of the Sky Demon? If that's the case, do you think you can sit back and relax? Unfortunately, as far as I know, those cultivators who took the real elixir of immortality didn't seem to have a good ending. Not long ago, those who took the elixir of immortality, the Jade Lake Immortal Palace's signature elixir of immortality, were all annihilated in the Wei River battle. Do you want me to find a few demons sealing bottles and have them tell you how they are doing now? Lin Yuan's smile and voice were full of malice. Yes, whether it was those who took the blood of the ancestor, or those who took the defective product, in the eyes of the Sky Demon, they were nothing but chess pieces. As long as the conditions were right, they could be discarded at any time. Gulp. That person swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His gaze began to wander, as if he couldn't focus. I think you might have misunderstood me a little. Of course, it's also my fault for not being too detailed. Today, I didn't call you here to deal with you, but to say something from the bottom of my heart. I didn't have the chance in the past, and even if I said it, you wouldn't take it seriously. So, I'll take the opportunity today to talk to you. In fact, I didn't intend to kill you. It's obvious that I'm very dissatisfied with you. Because you've made things difficult for me time and time again. Because you think that you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you should be superior to others. You think that all the benefits should belong to you and that you can't suffer any losses. To be honest, I did ask you to hand over your land, but the benefits that the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce brought to you far exceeded the benefits of those lands, right? You can save a lot of money on raising serfs, and you can put more resources into business. You can stimulate the economy of the northern frontier. This is beneficial to both the families behind you and the northern frontier. Unfortunately, you don't think so. You only think about how much benefits you can get from me. When I need you to contribute, you're not willing. Even if this contribution reduces your burden and increases your benefits, it's still the same. Because you're used to this model. Whether it's the Wangjian dynasty or the Shenwu dynasty, the rulers are like fish on a chopping board for you to cut. Because you know very well that the so-called royal family is essentially no different from you. They're just the most powerful family among all the aristocratic families. But a good tiger can't fight against a pack of wolves. No matter how strong they are, they can't fight against all the aristocratic families. This model continued until I appeared. I'm like an alien who broke your foundation and forced you to kneel. I made you feel that your power is slipping away bit by bit, and it's getting worse day by day. So even if you work for me for a month and can earn resources that you can only earn in a year or even a few years, you're still not satisfied with me. Because you know that these good days won't last for long. Because in this kind of environment, once there's a problem with your younger generation's ability, your entire family will quickly decline. You're worried about the rise of the humble families and the decline of your own family. But you don't seem to have noticed that while you're feeling sorry for yourself and doing everything you can to stop me, there are still many people who are training themselves and nurturing their younger generation so that they and their families can be better and stronger in the new era. Be it human beings or demon beasts, none of them could escape from the law of nature where the strong preyed on the weak. It was just that the nature of civilization had made our bloody methods softer, darker, and harder to detect. Since ancient times, nobody could escape from the survival of the fittest. You're not used to the new environment, yet you want to stop the arrival of the new era. Doing this is no different from seeking your own death. I'm only helping you to die earlier so that you can reincarnate. Even if you succeed, the one who loses in the end is me. In the future, if your family and your younger generation don't change, they still won't be able to escape the fate of decline and extinction. Lin Yuan rarely spoke at length, or it could be said that he rarely wasted time. But when these words were spoken, many people lowered their heads. Their eyes even began to turn red, as if they were about to cry. The younger generation of aristocratic families were indeed born with a golden spoon in their mouths, but that didn't mean that all of them were good-for-nothings. They clearly knew that the changes brought about by Lin Yuan weren't bad. Although it offended the foundation of their existence, if they were willing to change, they could live a better life. It was just that they had adapted to the days where they didn't need to work hard to be a superior person. Why would they be willing to put in the effort? The ones who were wrong weren't them, and it wasn't Lin Yuan. It was just that Lin Yuan's appearance made this change come too quickly and too suddenly. The people who were sleeping didn't want to be woken up, so they tried to resist, but they found that in front of Lin Yuan, they were as weak as a joke. Dragon King. I was wrong. I hope that you can give us another chance. We will definitely. That person slowly lowered his head, and there seemed to be tears in his eyes. Although he knew very well that everything was too late, at this moment, he still wanted to apologize to Lin Yuan. He should have had a good future, and become a person above the clouds in this era-changing storm. But because of a single mistake, everything was gone. Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Lin Yuan opened his mouth again, interrupting his speech. He said indifferently, "I've said it before, I never intended to destroy you. The ones who walked the path of death are yourselves. The ones who will punish you are also yourselves." Chapter 583. When Lin Yuan's voice fell, a dumbfounded expression appeared on everyone's faces. Lin Yuan spent so much effort to kidnap them here and said so much, but in the end, he still did not intend to let them go. That wasn't unacceptable. But what did he mean by dealing with themselves? Could it be that they could not live with themselves? It was as if they were sick. When you take the elixir of immortality, you will feel very strong and excited, but after the effects of the elixir wear off, you will feel very weak, and your energy will not be able to keep up with your thoughts. You will have to take the elixir of immortality again to barely hold on. Did you not notice that the duration of the elixir is getting shorter and shorter, and the desire in your heart is getting stronger and stronger? There is clearly no problem with the elixir of immortality, but the effect is getting worse and worse. Lin Yuan's tone was still full of malice. He said slowly, "I'll say it again. The one who will deal with you is yourself, not me." Dragon King, you mean, there are other problems with the elixir of immortality. After all, that person was a top figure in the northern frontier, so his reaction was naturally not slow. As someone who had taken the elixir of immortality, he quickly realized that Lin Yuan's words and actions were full of mockery and ridicule, as if even if he let them go, they would not be able to escape death. Your desire is the backlash of the elixir of immortality. The more you take the elixir of immortality, the stronger your desire and the stronger the backlash. When the elixir of immortality is no longer able to stimulate your mind, when the backlash completely destroys your will, you will go crazy. There is no solution to this. If I don't give you the elixir of immortality, you will suffer the backlash and go crazy, and then be killed by me. Even if I give you the elixir of immortality, you will only be able to extend your life. When the side effects become stronger and stronger until the elixir of immortality is no longer able to suppress them, you will still fall into madness, and then be killed by me. In theory, when you first suffer the backlash of the elixir of immortality, if you can rely on your own willpower to withstand it and not choose to continue taking the elixir of immortality, then you can escape from this certain death situation. The more you take the elixir of immortality, the stronger the backlash, and when it far exceeds the limit of your mind, once the elixir of immortality stops, only death will await you. Lin Yuan nodded slightly, answering the other's question. Most of the people present had strange expressions on their faces. As for those who had not consumed the elixir of immortality, they looked as if they had been given a new lease on life. That person's face turned pale as he muttered, "So, that's how it is." Among the crowd, Qiao Yilan, whose face was gloomy, suddenly sneered and said in a cold voice, "Since only death awaits us, why would Dragon King bother to bring us here? If you leave us alone and wipe out the aristocratic families in the northern frontier, wouldn't you be able to make the northern frontier yours?" As the Qiao family that had suffered the greatest loss tonight, Qiao Yilan felt as if his heart was bleeding. More than half of the servants and guards that he had painstakingly nurtured had been killed or injured. Several of his Heaven Dipper realm brothers were either dead or crippled. Even the younger generation had been slaughtered by those monsters dressed in black. The strength that the Qiao family had been so proud of was nothing in the eyes of the other party. If he could have foreseen all of this, Qiao Yilan would have long come to the northern frontier prince's mansion to beg for forgiveness. Why would he put up any unnecessary resistance? As for now, the Qiao family had already become a thing of the past. Beside Qiao Yilan was Shui Yan. As the head of the Shui family, the disciple of the legendary Ma Jun. Under his management, the Shui family was still a small family in the northern frontier. However, no one dared to look down on the Shui family. After all, Shui Yan was Lin Yuan's most trusted aide. Therefore, no one had looked for Shui Yan for the matter of the elixir of immortality. Shui Yan had not taken the initiative to participate in this matter, but he had been paying attention to the development of the situation. At this moment, Shui Yan knew that he had made the right bet again. Looking at the ashen-faced Qiao Yilan, Shui Yan suddenly felt a sense of relief. At the same time, he completely extinguished those thoughts that he should not have had in his mind. The number one aristocratic family in the northern frontier was so weak in the eyes of Lin Yuan, let alone a family like the Shui family that could not be brought up in public. Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Qiao Yilan. He sighed and said, "I originally thought that the head of the Qiao family was an outstanding person, but I overestimated you, Qiao Yilan. The Qiao family has already been destroyed. In fact, whether or not you participate in this meeting does not matter much. They are only carrying out my initial orders." After all, who would have thought that the Qiao family would overestimate their own abilities? Ha! Qiao Yilan laughed bitterly and did not continue the conversation. The person in front of Lin Yuan was only outstanding in his own abilities. On the other hand, the Qiao family had always valued the cultivation of the younger generation. It could be said that at this stage of the new era, if nothing happened to the Qiao family, everything would be smooth sailing. They would become the number one aristocratic family in the northern frontier. In the future, they would even be able to compete for the throne of the northern frontier. Similarly, a single slip would cause everlasting sorrow. However, although the people present had been tricked by the elixir of immortality, they were still intelligent people. They had only suffered because they did not understand the nature of the sky demon and the inside story of the elixir of immortality. After Lin Yuan finished speaking, they knew that the main show had begun. The following content would determine the fate of their families. Most of the people present are people who are about to die. I think you all know that if people like you lose control after consuming the elixir, the consequences will be severe. Therefore, in the following period of time, I will continue to provide you with the elixir of immortality so that you can live as people for a while longer. During this period of time, I will arrange for the outstanding students of the Northern Frontier Academy to study by your side. I hope that you will be able to teach these students the ways of being officials in the shortest time possible and then conduct a smooth transfer of power. Once the first batch of students has successfully taken control of the various government offices and organizations under the Northern Frontier, I will gradually open the enrollment of the Northern Frontier Academy so that the children of the aristocratic families can enter the Northern Frontier Academy to learn the core knowledge and participate in the following series of examinations and internships. Those with outstanding ability will always have their own seats, and the vermin will be completely eliminated. Lin Yuan's gaze was clear, and there was no malice in his tone. On the contrary, he was extremely calm. No one was stupid enough to tell Lin Yuan that they could still be saved and wanted to see if they could rely on their own willpower to quit the elixir of immortality. Opening the enrollment requirements of the Northern Frontier Academy was a good thing for them, but it was also a warning. Because if they rejected Lin Yuan's proposal to transfer power, there was no need for this person and the family behind him to exist. The Qiao family had indeed overestimated their capabilities in resisting, but everyone present believed that even if Qiao Yilan were to restrain himself and beg for forgiveness, the Qiao family's fate would not be any better. After all, this was one of the benefits of being a leader. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Chapter 584. I don't have a list of the people who took the medicine, so I hope you can stand up for yourselves. I'm warning you, don't try to be sneaky, because Sky Demon has already given up on you. The only one who can provide you with the elixir of immortality is me. Once you've finished the stock in your house, no matter what method you use to buy the elixir of immortality, I'll be able to find you. If you don't believe me, you can try. As for the price, I think I don't need to say it. Lin Yuan glanced at Xiao Yilin meaningfully. His figure moved, and he once again returned to his position and closed his eyes to rest. The Northern Frontier Academy was a place to train the generals and officials of the Northern Frontier. Even if the Northern Frontier was not doing well, the Northern Frontier would be completely standardized in the future. In other words, the children of the aristocratic families could still be bullied by their ancestors, but in 5 or 10 years, they would have to rely on their own abilities to determine their status. As long as the Northern Frontier Academy did not recruit the aristocratic families, they would die sooner or later. So even if Lin Yuan's cake was poisonous, they had to eat it. Li Zhong also looked deeply at Luo Su, then adjusted his state of mind, and said in a low voice, "I'll go to the backyard first. In 5 minutes, I'll have people untie you one by one. Whether you're a person who took the medicine or not, come to the backyard and I'll register you. You'll have to bear the consequences if you try to be sneaky. There's only one chance, so that's it." As his voice fell, Li Zhong strode toward the backyard. The elixir of immortality. In this invisible game, Lin Yuan was the winner, because he used this method to solve the hidden dangers of the aristocratic families, greatly alleviating the side effects of the elixir of immortality. Luo Su was the winner, because he showed his strength and proved the value of his existence. As for him, Li Zhong, he was a complete failure from head to toe. Even if he did not have much selfishness, a failure was a failure. The prestige and confidence that he had painstakingly accumulated were all swept away by Luo Su's sudden outburst in this invisible game. Perhaps for a long time in the future, he would not be able to raise his head under Luo Su's suppression. As if everything was going smoothly. Even Sherdong, who had escaped, had been arranged by Luo Su. However, there was still a fish still outside the fishing net. Meanwhile, Northern Battlefront Army Station. As the oldest army on the northern frontier, the Northern Battlefront Army certainly had its own reputation. 500 miles away from Shunning City, there was an empty plain. It was listed as a military forbidden area. Anyone who trespassed without permission would be killed without mercy. But now, there were not only the Northern Army on the plain, but also countless demonic beasts. As the only army in the Northern Frontier, the Northern Frontier Army didn't have enough people. More than 80% of the soldiers were stationed in the Northern Frontier. They were responsible for security and guarding. These people were all experienced soldiers in the Northern Frontier. Their loyalty to the Northern Frontier was unquestionable. Therefore, no one dared to mess with them. The real trouble was the Northern Battlefront Army. 6,000 of Shen Lin Jun's reserve troops and 30,000 of Zhang Qilin's direct subordinates were trained by Zhang Qilin. This was all of Zhang Qilin's strength. It was also the strength that he believed would be willing to fight for him after he and Lin Yuan had a falling out. Therefore, he had kicked out all the people who weren't loyal to him to prevent them from betraying him. When the new black market appeared outside Shunning City, Zhang Qilin also noticed the change in the situation. Especially when the Blackwater Army and Yi Busho started to arrest the people with power in the Northern Frontier, Zhang Qilin knew that his existence might have been exposed. But he didn't choose to run away like Sherdong. Under the influence of Luo Su, Sherdong had misunderstood the strength of the Northern Frontier. Therefore, he naively thought that he could escape. Zhang Qilin, as one of the old generals in the Northern Frontier, clearly knew the horror of the Blackwater Army and Yi Busho. He also knew how much power his former superior Li Zhongsheng and predecessor Gao Buzhen had in their hands. Run? It would only make his death more ugly. Zhang Qilin didn't want to run. As a soldier, the scar on his back would always be a disgrace. Therefore, he decided to fight to the death. But Zhang Qilin didn't expect that what appeared in front of him wasn't an elite army like the Blackwater Army or Yi Busho, but a mixed demon-beast army. Looking at the ape-type demon-beast cavalry riding on the backs of rhinoceroses, mammoths, forest elephants, and other giant armored demon beasts, holding special weapons that were tens of meters thick in their hands, as well as the bird-type demon beasts circling in the sky. There were also 9 colored deer with all kinds of buffs, turtle-type demon beasts forming a defensive position, elemental long-range demon beasts eyeing covetously, and even a large number of wolves, tigers, leopards, and other highly mobile scattered assault troops on the flanks. Zhang Qilan felt his eyelids madly twitching. Were these demon beasts? Even a professional army couldn't be like this. This wasn't the most excessive thing. The most excessive thing was that a large number of demi-humans wearing heavy armor were building an artillery position at the rear of the demon beast army, and it wasn't the kind that fixed the artillery position. The artillery position was slowly moving forward with the advance of the demon beast army. Based on Zhang Qilan's experience, if he didn't take any countermeasures, in about 10 minutes, the entire northern battlefront army would be in the range of the enemy's artillery. At that time, even the war god wouldn't be able to save them. But countermeasures? Against the heavy infantry wearing hundreds of thousands of kilograms of heavy armor and the ape-type demon beasts on their backs? Their lances were probably no different from toothpicks in the eyes of the demon beasts, right? Even if the demon beasts' weapons weren't extended lances, they were still nearly 100 meters long. A casual sweep could directly destroy the mobile troops on his side. When they lost these countermeasures, the wolves, tigers, and leopards would rush in. Relying on the infantry in his hand, he might not be able to protect the archer's position. Fight against Lord Dragon King? Truly an ant that overestimates itself. The commander of the Demon Hand army was the warrior and patriarch of the mountain-shaking apes, Mendu. Behind him were Na Qin and Wan Yu. As the direct descendants of Lin Yuan, the demon beasts in the Stoneclaw Forest were naturally the biggest beneficiaries. Even the humans in the northern battlefront had improved so quickly. With Lin Yuan as their backer, they had also improved by leaps and bounds under the nourishment of a large number of spiritual items. Mendu was now at the peak of Wisdom Realm Level 9. Mendu had also reached the beginning of Wisdom Realm Level 9. After a while, it was possible for him to break through to level 10, or even become a mountain lord. And this was also because Mendu and the other demon beasts had been receiving military training under Lin Yuan's arrangement to form the demon beast army. Otherwise, their individual strength would have reached a higher level. Today was the best chance to test the strength of the demon beast army. Chapter 585. Boom, 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 boom. The heavily armored demonic beasts pressed forward in a formation. Their pace wasn't fast, but when their steps landed, one could even feel the earth trembling. Even though they hadn't fought yet, standing in front of such an army of demonic beasts still required a huge amount of courage. Many soldiers were already panicking. They could only look at Zhang Qilan helplessly, begging for an order to retreat. Hiss, Zhang Qilan took a deep breath. Under the gazes of countless people, the corners of his mouth slowly curled up as he said indifferently, "Today is this Zhang's personal matter. I definitely won't leave, but I won't force you to stay and die with me. If you're willing to leave, you can leave now. This Zhang guarantees that he won't make things difficult for you." Many people showed hesitation in their eyes. Many of them turned around and left, too. It was not that they had no loyalty or affection for Zhang Qilan. If it were any other human army here, they would not flinch or be timid at all. Even if it were the Fallen Star army, which had the same number of soldiers and was much better than them, they would still be able to fight. However, when they saw such an enormous army of demon beasts, their will to fight was completely extinguished. The beast kings in the Hengduan mountain range had to show some respect to Lin Yuan. Without Lin Yuan's permission, the demon beasts under their command rarely went to the northern frontier. Even if they did, it would not be a huge army of demon beasts. The leaders of the other northern frontier might be able to summon some demon beasts to fight with them, but they could not order an army of demon beasts or demi-humans to fight with them. The Northern Army, the Southern Army, the Fallen Star Army, and the Blackwater Army sounded like a lot, but they were only one of the organizations of the northern frontier. Lin Yuan was a demon beast after all. Even if he was willing to trust human beings, he had to be wary of them. Therefore, it was not necessary to say who Zhang Qilin's opponent was. The people here were all veterans of the northern frontier. Many of them were even the garrison troops of the 6 border cities. They had survived to this day because of Lin Yuan's rise. The Black Jiao, who had dominated the entire northern frontier, had long been labeled as powerful and invincible. He represented the fear of his enemies. Not many people dared to make an enemy out of Lin Yuan, especially those who made a living in the northern frontier. Even the most ferocious fugitives who fled to the northern frontier would be willing to work hard to earn a living if they did not have to. They would not try to challenge the laws of the northern frontier because the efficiency of the embroidered uniform guards and the Shifter Emperor's association in capturing people was far beyond their imagination. Even if they did not want their lives, the punishment after committing a crime would definitely not be pleasant. Seeing that some people had begun to leave, Zhang Qilin's mouth curved up slightly. He turned around and sat on his warhorse. He shouted, "Charge!" Whether it was when he was in the Shenlin Jun Reserve Force or now in the Northern Army, Zhang Qilin had learned a lot of knowledge. Therefore, when he saw the arrangement of the Demon Beast Army, he already knew Lin Yuan's idea. At this moment, those who could stay by his side were already his direct subordinates. Among them, there were officers who were also in the Shenlin Jun Reserve Force like him. There were also soldiers that he had won over with his charm and methods. However, just like the loyalty of the northern frontier to Lin Yuan, most of them were loyal to themselves first, and then to their superiors. The Demon Beast Army surrounded the Sanju-yi not because there were not enough demon beasts, but because from the beginning, Lin Yuan did not want to kill all of them. Lin Yuan only wanted to eliminate the parasites that had taken root in the northern frontier. From this moment on, although the soldiers who left would not be in danger, it would be very difficult for them to stand out in the northern frontier in the future. Most of the people who did not move behind him did not care about their lives. They also knew that even if they ran away now, Lin Yuan would punish them later. It was better for them to fight to the death like soldiers. Charge! The soldiers of the Northern Army who were determined to die did not hesitate. After Zhang Qilin took the lead and rushed out, they immediately swung their whips and charged. Now was the best time. If they delayed for a while, the demi-humans behind the Demon Beast Army would set up artillery positions and completely cover them. At that time, they would not even have a chance to fight back. The artillery positions were not fixed yet, so the artillery and heavy crossbows could not be adjusted. Once they were fired, they would explode in the enemy's formation. Therefore, as long as they were fast enough, the enemy's long-range firepower would not be of any use. Unfortunately, even though Mendu was a demonic beast, its biological structure was similar to that of a human's. This allowed demonic beasts like apes to have limitless possibilities and a strong learning ability. Coupled with its natural disposition, Mendu did not act rashly. Every time they moved forward a certain distance, Mendu would order some of the artillery and heavy crossbows to stop. Although it slowed down the speed of the whole army, it ensured that the firepower would not be interrupted. Seeing Zhang Qilin leading the charge, Mendu showed a cruel smile on his face and roared, "Fire!" In the next moment, tens of thousands of heavy artillery and heavy crossbows were fired. Zhang Qilin's troops were instantly covered by artillery fire and crossbow bolts that were close to 3 meters long and 2 meters thick. After the first round of artillery fire ended, Mendu did not let down his guard. Before the dust settled, the demon beasts in heavy armor began to move with heavy but not fast steps toward the area filled with dust and flying rocks. The ape riders let out excited roars one after another, like children who had been given candy. After all, although the northern frontier under Lin Yuan did not require the demon beasts to pay attention to human nature, the new law of the northern frontier was there. Neither Lin Yuan nor Li Zhong would show any favoritism. Those who violated the law would be punished. Therefore, even if the demon beasts were incomparably ferocious and murderous in the past, when they came to the northern frontier, they still had to peacefully get along with the humans. Even if there were any conflicts, they would be dealt with by the local government as soon as possible. After all, the embroidered uniform guard and the association of the Demon Emperor were not just for show. They would not be able to distinguish between right and wrong. Otherwise, those who committed crimes would not be the only ones to lose their heads. However, everything was relative. Just like how humans coveted demon beasts' flesh, cores, and materials. For demon beasts, powerful cultivators were also existences that were like great tonics. After all, when a human cultivator reached a certain level, apart from cultivation techniques and diligence, they would also need demon beast flesh and various spiritual items to assist their cultivation. Over time, the medicinal effects that humans could not digest would accumulate. Therefore, demon beasts liked to eat humans. Not only were humans not as powerful as their own kind, they were also more nourishing. This time, they were ordered to kill. Chapter 586. The Transfer of Power in the Northern Frontier. The older generation of the aristocratic families gradually withdrew from the stage. The sudden replacement of the old with the new slowed down the operations of the entire northern region. It was common for Li Zhong to not receive a result for several hours, or even a day or two, after the decree was sent to the local government. It was not that the older generation who were handing over power did not put in effort. From their point of view, no matter which position, there was never a standard answer. Every person and every matter had their own characteristics. They could handle it with ease, but it did not mean that the students from the Northern Frontier academies could do the same. There were some things that they could not learn from unless they were badly battered. Now that they were still here, they could still check the general direction and ensure that things did not go astray. Therefore, they would rather let Li Zhong be impatient and silently control the general situation. They would wait for the students from the Northern Frontier academies to handle the government affairs themselves, instead of taking charge of everything in an orderly manner. Although Li Zhong was dissatisfied with this, he could express his understanding. More importantly, Li Zhong now had more important things to do. About 10 minutes ago, a guest came to the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion. A guest that no one had expected, Lei Qiusheng. The nominal king of the Shenwu dynasty had become an insignificant exile. Although the army of the Shenwu dynasty was still fighting a bloody battle with the cultivators and army controlled by the sky demon in the Central Plains, anyone could see that these people were just arrows at the end of their flight and could be wiped out at any time. Even if Lei Qiusheng, who was known as the God of War, was included, it was still the same. Cultivators cultivated for longevity. No matter how many drawbacks the elixir of immortality had, it would still become a temptation in people's hearts. Even if the cultivators who had been turned into inferior sky demon by the elixir of immortality had all died, they could not stop the sky demon from using the elixir of immortality to recruit a large number of cultivators to work for him. Although these cultivators' performance in large-scale battles was far inferior to those professional soldiers, there were too many of them. They could wear down the Shenwu dynasty's army. Moreover, things had happened so suddenly that even Lei Qiusheng was not fully prepared for the army's equipment. Currently, they were all self-sufficient because the imperial court that had been completely controlled by the extraterrestrial demons would obviously not provide them with any material support. The few who did not take the elixir of immortality had also been forced to resign and leave this troublesome place. Meanwhile, the whereabouts of the always missing Lei Qiusheng had always been a mystery. However, no one expected that Lei Qiusheng would actually return to the northern frontier. Comparatively speaking, regardless of whether Lei Qiusheng returned to the Shenwu dynasty to be a puppet emperor or went to the south to seek refuge with Lei Qiuming, there was undoubtedly more room for maneuver and safety. However, at the northern frontier, even if Lei Qiusheng had a body of skills, if he wanted to display them, it would depend on whether or not Lin Yuan was willing to give him a chance. Putting everything else aside, just Luo Su alone could directly target him. After all, Lei Qiusheng did not have any foundation or connections in the northern frontier to speak of. The aristocratic families that still had fantasies about the Shenwu dynasty had long been bloodily purged by Lin Yuan. A few of the more powerful sects had already withdrawn from the northern frontier. As for the rest of the nobodies, even if they did not disappear, they could not make any waves. Among the big shots of the sects, only young Qinglin was left in the northern frontier. Moreover, he was still in a state of isolation. None of the Blood God Church's disciples had escaped. If they were not killed, they would be locked up in prison. Putting aside the fact that he did not have any external aid, although Zhang Xiu was not ranked in the intelligence agency of the northern frontier, the old team that he had previously transferred from the embroidered uniform guard and the power of the remaining members of the Jiao family were also existences that could not be underestimated. The Jiao family of the Wangjian dynasty did not have any feelings for Lei Qiusheng. In particular, Zhang Xiu, the former crown prince who had died twice, hated Lei Qiusheng to the core. Lei Qiusheng entering the northern frontier was no different from a sheep entering a tiger's den. As long as Lin Yuan did not protect him, Zhang Xiu could clearly arrange for him to be dealt with properly. "Are you surprised to see me?" Lei Qiusheng held a blue and white teacup and looked at Li Zhong with a playful gaze. It was as if he was not in the guest hall of the northern frontier prince's mansion, but in the throne room of the Shenwu dynasty. Li Zhong nodded slightly. However, very quickly, the corners of his mouth curled up. He smiled and said, "I am indeed surprised. After all, you did not have many choices, but it was definitely not few either. You just had to take the narrowest path of survival." Who wouldn't be surprised? Only a clever person would be calculative about gains and losses. They would choose a plan that they thought would have the least losses and the greatest benefits. However, they would still be complacent and think that they were truly wise. No matter if I went to Xinjiang, Shuangjian, or the south, my path of survival would not be narrower than the northern frontier. No one wanted me to live. However, the Black Jiao, who was incompatible with me, wanted me to live the most. Moreover, the Sky Demon's chaos was indeed my problem. However, the people above were not blind. No matter how much trouble they caused, they could only exist within the borders of the Shenwu dynasty. This was because the Black Jiao on the northern frontier was more than enough to deal with them. If they extended their tentacles beyond the scope of the Black Jiao's abilities, the top cultivators above would not continue to sit and watch. Therefore, the final battle should still be at the Wei River. However, the two sides fighting would be the Black Jiao and the Sky Demon. I, the Emperor who had been unknowingly taken over, have already been kicked out of this game. Lei Qiusheng took a sip of tea and said with a smile, "I heard that the leader of the Sky Demon side is also hiding in the northern frontier? They say that a dead camel is bigger than a horse. Today, it seems that this is indeed the case." Li Zhong nodded slightly and did not deny Lei Qiusheng's words. Although the palace lord escaping to the northern frontier was not something that everyone knew, the Jade Lake Immortal Palace had put on a big show at the Wei River. Naturally, those who were observant would quickly receive the corresponding information. Whether Lei Qiusheng had his own intelligence network in his hands or guessed based on his own strength, he did not need to deny it. This was because it would only make him seem petty and reduce the prestige of the northern frontier for no reason. Therefore, from now on, the northern frontier will be the safest place in the entire Shenwu dynasty. No matter how big the storm is going to be, it will abruptly stop at the Wei River. Tell me, if I didn't come to the northern frontier to recuperate, would I have gone somewhere else to wait for death with folded arms? Lei Qiusheng gently placed the teacup in his hand on the table beside him and said with a cold face, "Moreover, I have been in the army since I was a child. I know very well that there is no general who will always win. It is normal to lose and win. This time, I lost, but I won't be depressed. I came to the northern frontier to deal with those disgusting bastards. I think that at this juncture, whether it is the Black Jiao or the northern frontier king, neither will refuse my alliance, right?" Chapter 587. Logically speaking, that wouldn't be the case. The smile on Li Zhong's face remained unchanged, but his tone gradually became indifferent. "But then again, what kind of chips do you have now, Your Majesty? Could it be that Your Majesty is also a hidden grand cultivator who can single-handedly fend off thousands of troops? Late-stage airborne realm. That's the real deal. It can't be faked." A smile also appeared on Lei Qiusheng's face as he said calmly, "But my chips have never been myself. Although I'm not considered a wise man, I'm definitely not a mediocre person. Do you still think that Shenlin Jun didn't return to defend the imperial capital at this juncture because I was exhausted from being mobilized by Sky Demon and the cultists?" Li Zhong was silent. The most powerful army of the Shinwu dynasty had disappeared without a trace after it wiped out the rebels in the Central Plains at the beginning. No one knew where it was stationed until now. This was not only a sore point for the Sky Demon, but also a sore point for the northern frontier. They still hadn't cleaned up Shenlin Jun's reserves hidden all over the northern frontier. This showed how difficult it was to deal with this army. Now that Shenlin Jun's main force was nowhere to be found, it was also a knife hanging over the heads of the northern frontier. When the time came for the final battle, who this knife stabbed would directly affect the outcome of the war. Now that we're done talking about chips, let's get back to the topic. The Black Jiao doesn't want me to die. It doesn't even want me to lose, because we've always been the same kind. To put it bluntly, I'm a traitor and a real ambitious person. This reputation doesn't sound good anywhere. However, the Black Jiao's reputation isn't necessarily better than mine. No matter how tough its methods are or how good its new policies are, it's still a monster. For the 6 dynasties that have been passed down since ancient times, the Black Jiao and I are both anomalies. I can only tolerate the existence of the Black Jiao in the Shenwu dynasty because it's an opponent, but it's also a kind of spur. If a dynasty doesn't have strong enemies around it, it will quickly decay, fall, and eventually disappear completely. Everyone knows this. Although the Shenwu dynasty is now besieged on all sides, if they have a choice, the 6 dynasties will never move a single soldier against the Shenwu dynasty. As long as they don't move, when I die, when my descendants die, the dynasty will quickly decline and eventually disappear. Because we are both of a different race, the Black Flood Dragon never wanted me to lose. In other words, it didn't want me to lose to someone else. Otherwise, what happened to the Shenwu dynasty today would be the future of the North. It wants to defeat me, or be defeated by me, to prove the existence of anomalies. At this point, Lei Qiusheng shrugged and said with a smile, "This is the reason why I came to the northern frontier. Staying here, I'm safer than anywhere else. I can even get a chance to rise again. Do you understand?" Lei Qiusheng's words could be said to be frank and sincere, and indeed reasonable. He and Lin Yuan were both anomalies. In fact, Lin Yuan was even more so. Lei Qiusheng defeating Lin Yuan could prove the existence of anomalies and ensure the continuation of the Shenwu dynasty. It wouldn't directly disappear after a 2nd or 3rd generation. And Lin Yuan defeating Lei Qiusheng could prove that his path was correct, thus opening the curtains of a new era. Allowing the northern frontier to grow stronger was never because of Lei Qiusheng. This was what Lei Qiusheng meant from the beginning. The northern frontier didn't take advantage of the situation to attack the Shenwu dynasty, not because of stability, but also because of Lin Yuan's considerations. A true king wouldn't say that he wouldn't listen to slanderous words, but he would always have a balance in his heart. If there weren't enough benefits, who would be willing to take the risk? I understand the reasoning, but your majesty doesn't have any sincerity. Li Zhong adjusted his state of mind and said with a smile, "Your majesty said that Shenlin Jun is still under your control, and I believe that. Your majesty said that you had already noticed the Sky Demon's movements, and I also believe that. But your majesty, how can you prove that Shenlin Jun, this sharp knife, will stab the Sky Demon and not the northern frontier in the final battle? How about? First of all, I won't tell you anything about Shenlin Jun. It's not a secret that I came to the northern frontier. The king of the northern frontier also doesn't need to consider how to deal with me. I can even say that the Black Jiao will clearly know about our conversation today. Before he speaks, your highness should think about what to do next." Lei Qiusheng had a confident smile on his face. He said with a calm expression, "I'll say the same thing again. The Black Jiao doesn't want me to lose, and I also don't want the Black Jiao to lose. The Sky Demon is destined to never achieve great things, and I'm a loser. I just want to vent my anger. After that, even if I become the Black Jiao's stepping stone, I'm still willing to do it." Lei Qiusheng interrupted Li Zhong. After all, he didn't want to feel like he was being controlled by someone, even if he had already seen the outcome. However, as a king, Lei Qiusheng saw further than Li Zhong. He didn't rely on himself to reach the northern frontier safely. The Black Jiao had many uses for him, especially since the feud between the Xinwu dynasty and the Wangjian dynasty still existed. As long as he existed, Zhang Xiu would always be a pawn for Lin Yuan. Lei Qiusheng's words hit his sore spot. The smile on Li Zhong's face started to become unnatural. However, he didn't have the guts to kill Lei Qiusheng before Lin Yuan spoke. He could only say weakly, "Come, bring His Majesty to rest. Treat him like a king." 2 guards from the mansion stepped forward and stood behind Lei Qiusheng, one on the left and one on the right. Lei Qiusheng smiled, got up, and walked towards the backyard. At the same time, outside the king's residence in the northern frontier, Lin Yuan and Yan Xingqi were sitting on the ground. "I thought that you would take revenge for your grudges," Lin Yuan said half seriously and half jokingly. Yan Xingqi was silent for a moment, then smiled and said, "There was no feud. It was just that I wasn't as skilled as him back then. Furthermore, now that I have brought Lei Qiusheng to the northern frontier, the day of revenge won't be far away. Just like how you relied on him to kill Zhang Xiu and the Zhao clan, Lei Qiusheng would still be killed by me in the end. This is karma. It's also a king's way of killing without spilling blood." However, seeing Yan Xingqi's hesitant expression, Lin Yuan slowly let out a nasal sound, This old man really didn't expect that the Dragon King would be able to unravel the grievances of the older generation and arrange all the karma. Then, what will happen to me? Yan Xingqi laughed and didn't hide anything from his words. Lin Yuan didn't hesitate and said slowly, "Why don't you stay in the northern frontier and continue to be a protector, or be an ordinary old man and enjoy your grandchildren here? This king heard that your adopted son's family is pregnant. It won't be long before you can hold your grandchildren." When he heard the words adopted son and grandchildren, Yan Xingqi's face darkened. However, he smiled bitterly and said, "If you continue like this, it's easy for you to lose friends." Chapter 588. The path of a king is a lonely path. Isn't it normal to have no friends? Plus, this king doesn't believe that the old general, who has already seen the new era, will still do something that doesn't know his place. Lin Yuan didn't seem to care. His body blurred, and he quickly disappeared in front of Yan Xingqi. Yan Xingqi took a deep breath. The northern frontier was filled with talents. Something like helping Lei Qiusheng didn't need him to do anything. However, Lin Yuan decided to give him this task. This was a test. If Yan Xingqi couldn't hold back his anger and killed Lei Qiusheng on the spot, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. Even a grand cultivator of the Void Realm could not deny that Yan Xingqi no longer had the same ambition as before. Although Yan Xingqi was the guardian of the northern frontier, he didn't have any authority. He didn't even have the chance to lead an army. His figure had faded. If Lin Yuan didn't personally appoint him, he would be happy to stay in the northern frontier and teach the orphans he took in. In the past, Yan Xingqi was a cold-blooded and merciless general. However, the Yan Xingqi now, other than having a high level of cultivation, was just an old man who liked to play with his grandchildren. Now that he had something to worry about, he naturally lost his ambition. Maybe if he maintained this relationship, his adopted children would be able to fight for a good future in the northern frontier? Ignoring Yan Xingqi's conflicted and complicated feelings, Lin Yuan flew in the air while brainstorming. The first eye was still missing. The latest news was that he entered the monster forest. However, after capturing a large group of sky demon, there was no more news of him. It was as if he wasn't even in the northern frontier. However, because of the bloodline restriction of those sky demon, even if they were willing to tell Lin Yuan, they wouldn't be able to tell him anything. This feeling of having a knife hanging over his head and a chill all over his body was not a good feeling. Unknowingly, Lin Yuan had already returned to his lair. Every cell in his body was crazily absorbing the rich spiritual energy to temper himself. The free attribute points on the attribute panel were also constantly increasing. Although it was slow, it was much better than the previous feeling of only increasing by a few tenths of a point a day. It was not because his innate talent had become stronger after transforming into a flood dragon, but because the green leaf lotus had actually gathered a large amount of spiritual energy in the past few days. When Lin Yuan moved around his nest, he felt as if his body had become much heavier. This should be the precursor to the gradual solidification of the spirit chi, but he didn't know how long it would take for the spirit chi here to liquefy. He couldn't possibly have to wait for 3,000 years, right? Actually, you can also feed the green leaf water lotus. As this saint-grade flower matures, it will no longer simply gather the surrounding spirit chi of heaven and earth. It can even continuously produce spirit chi of heaven and earth. The more you feed it, the faster the green leaf water lotus will grow, and the more spirit chi of heaven and earth you can absorb. The system appeared out of nowhere. Lin Yuan rolled his eyes and asked weakly, "How do I feed it? Do I need to spend attribute points? What the hell are you thinking? Only divine power can feed the green leaf water lotus. For this saint-grade flower that can allow one to ascend in broad daylight, although attribute points are also a type of life essence, their level is still too low. Unless the amount is large enough to cause a qualitative change, there won't be any effect." Although the system did not have a physical body, Lin Yuan guessed that the system should be rolling its eyes at this moment. But, this fellow seemed to be taking advantage of him. Their relationship had just eased a little, and now it was trying to trick him into getting more incense power. Could it be that incense power had a special effect on it? But then again, if there was a chance, Lin Yuan really wanted to speed up the growth of the green leaf water lotus. After all, in the novels of his previous life, it was stated that if one wanted to cultivate, there must be 4 key factors: wealth, companionship, method, and location. Wealth referred to wealth, but not just pure gold and silver. After all, even mortals needed to pay attention to the supplement of medicine when they practiced martial arts, let alone cultivation, which could allow one to achieve immortality. Without the flesh of demonic beasts and spirit chi of heaven and earth, wanting to cultivate was absolutely a pipe dream. Lin Yuan really had not seen anyone who could rely on their own talent to catch up with those cultivators who used the flesh of demonic beasts and spirit chi of heaven and earth to supplement their cultivation speed. Even if there was, it would be a cheat like him who had the system. Although he did not need to eat those things, he still needed to hunt living creatures, or try his luck in luck. It could be said that all roads lead to the same destination. As for companionship, only old perverts would think that it was referring to beauties. But on the path of cultivation, an individual's strength would always be limited, which was why they needed companions. It was not the kind of companions in the novels of his previous life who killed and robbed, but a friend or companion who could calmly sit down and have a cup of tea and discuss the Tao. Method was much simpler, it was nothing more than a cultivation method. Without a cultivation method, even if you had more wealth and companionship, you would not be able to enter the door of cultivation. In terms of wealth and companionship, although Lin Yuan could be considered rich and overbearing, but after all, he was walking the Tao of Kings. There were not many friends who were qualified to discuss the Tao with him, and the extra spirit chi of heaven and earth would not be of any benefit to him. It was better to use it to invest in the development of the northern frontier, or to cultivate some trustworthy subordinates. In terms of cultivation methods, he had the system, so he was not too worried. Although it was not a proper system, the cultivation methods that were randomly refreshed in the war treasure trove surpassed the existence of most of the cultivation methods in the Tianwu continent. Any one of them could be close to the earth grade. The last one was earth. It was also not a territory, a training ground, or something like that. For a demonic beast like Lin Yuan, it was a nest. Of course, for a human cultivator, it was called an immortal cave. A good lair can help Lin Yuan gather more spiritual energy of heaven and earth for cultivation. Just like his current low aptitude, but relying on the rich spiritual energy in the vicinity of his lair, his cultivation speed is not inferior to those talented evildoers. And nourishing the green leaf water lotus could make his nest better, gathering more spiritual chi. Even if there was a day when he did not kill other creatures to provide attribute points, his cultivation speed would not slow down as long as he stayed in his nest. As long as the power of incense is mentioned, why do you always look so impatient? Lin Yuan rolled his eyes and asked. Do you think that I don't need to put in effort to refine your life essence into attribute points, to refresh the goods in the war treasure trove for you, and to create those demonic beasts and humanoid species for you? Things like sacrifices are originally sacrifices to the heavens. You give me benefits, then I can report to you. Even if you walk the Tao of the ancient gods, those people will only provide me with sacrifices, and then I will give you a part of it, and you will give them a part of it. In the end, you are just a middleman. Lin Yuan guessed blindly. The system should still be rolling its eyes. Chapter 589. Although he didn't know how he had become a middleman, Lin Yuan could accept it. After all, the system was so impatient that it wanted him to do something. If it didn't get any benefits, Lin Yuan would panic. There was no one in the world that would treat you well or hate you for no reason. As one of the seeds chosen by the system to fight against Hong Jun, he should be the one who didn't do his job properly, right? In the past year, his strength and influence had increased by leaps and bounds. However, other than spending some more points, he didn't seem to have given the system anything in return. If he was the system, with such a host, he would have been replaced a long time ago. How about this? After all, it's a deal. If you help me catch that first generation, I'll go back and trick others into providing you with the power of incense. No matter how much they offer, you just need to give them something in return. I won't take a single cent. How about it? The fox had revealed its tail. Lin Yuan's smile gradually became distorted. It's still the same old saying. Even if you're dreaming, you should have a sense of propriety, right? The system once again displayed a line of large words in his mind. After a while, the system saw that Lin Yuan still had a twisted and sinister smile on his face. It sighed helplessly. The 50 great paths, not the 50 heavenly paths. No matter if it's the primordial world or that world, they all have their own set of rules. It's just like what you think. It's just like how you reap what you sow, everything is actually a deal. I brought you here and even gave you a chance to become stronger. This is already considered breaking the rules. I won't tell you, but you should know how much I've sacrificed. Although your existence is against the rules are still the rules. Even I can't break them, so I have no right to interfere with the operation of this world. Let alone helping you find that first generation sky demon, I can't even guide you. You should just stay where you are. I won't be able to earn your portion of incense. The system's words were like the Bien K's 3 strings that Lin Yuan was familiar with. Since he couldn't save him, he could only wait for death. Goodbye. However, he also knew that the system was not trying to fool him. Rules could never be broken. Just like how the system knew that Lin Yuan was on guard against it, it could only choose to warn Lin Yuan and then be honest with him. It could not directly kill Lin Yuan or remove the binding with Lin Yuan. As the heavenly axiom, the system could ignore some rules, but that didn't mean it could ignore all rules. However, I can give you a reminder. There is a powerful demonic beast nearby that is spying on you. It might have some information about what you want to know. It's up to you whether you can get it out or not. This line of words from the system was very helpless. It even had the feeling of, son, your father is very disappointed in you. Lin Yuan's body trembled, and a huge dragon's might erupted. His gaze was gloomy as he roared, who is it? Get out here. As his voice fell, a dragon's head slowly stretched out. A pair of golden eyes fell on Lin Yuan. It laughed and said, the Blackwater Dragon King's temper hasn't changed. Ha ha ha. The moment he saw the other party, Lin Yuan realized that the demonic beast that the system was talking about that was spying on him was actually an old enemy. The leader of the Inferno Beasts, Zhu Xian, was now in the Hengduan Mountains. Although he could not control the sky with one hand, his power was comparable to the 3 beast kings. In the past, if Zhu Xian spoke out to protect Lin Yuan, although many demonic beasts would be obedient, large clans like the Green Swamp clan would not take it seriously. However, now that Zhu Xian said such words, even the 3 beast kings had to give him some face. It was obvious how much Zhu Xian's power had expanded during this period of time. But thinking about it, other demonic beast clans needed time to slowly reproduce and grow. However, for the Inferno beasts that had expanded in the Hengduan Mountains during this period of time, Zhu Xian only needed to capture a group of Inferno beasts and tame them into his loyal hounds to obtain loyal subordinates. Long time no see, Zhu Xan Beast King. You're even more elegant than before. Speaking of which, this king's Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce is indebted to Zhu Xan Beast King for taking care of it during this period. Lin Yuan nodded slightly at the other party to show his courtesy. He was not a demonic beast with a one-track mind. He would not hold a grudge against Zhu Xan just because he had schemed against him before. Just like how an adult would always live a life they hated, although the current Lin Yuan was different from before, he would not fall out with a beast king like Zhu Xan just because of a moment of anger. Moreover, the other party had indeed taken care of the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce. Those inferno beasts had never attacked the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce's team. Some of the lost goods were even found by Zhu Xan. Although the two sides rarely met, they still had some cooperation. Dragon King, you're too polite. Zhu Xan nodded back and smiled. When I saw Dragon King from afar, I didn't dare to recognize you. After not seeing you for a while, although Dragon King hasn't broken through, you're several times stronger than before. Moreover, your lair is also extraordinary. The density of the spirit chi here is even more terrifying than the demonic beast imperial court. If Zhu Xan Beast King is interested, I don't mind giving it to you. Lin Yuan did not ignore the other party's pleasantries. After all, this person in front of him knew the whereabouts of the first die. Zhu Xan was slightly startled, but immediately reacted. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. Others don't know, but does the Dragon King not know me? Even if you're willing to give it to me, I'm afraid I won't have the fortune to enjoy it. Inferno beasts were very extreme existences. Their growth required time and constant killing. Spirit chi was not beneficial to them at all. They were even used to being roasted by inferno flames. Staying in a place with dense spirit chi would make them feel uncomfortable. Let's stop the pleasantries here. I wonder why Zhu Xan Beast King has come to my humble abode. The topic of conversation suddenly changed, causing Zhu Xan to be slightly startled. But soon, Zhu Xan smiled and said, I don't visit without a reason. I do have a reason for coming here. During this period of time, the Beast Lord said that he seemed to have comprehended something again and was going to go into seclusion to break through the bottleneck of the desolate demon realm. Moreover, he would not come out of seclusion until he broke through. Therefore, in the next few months, the selection of a new Beast Lord will begin. Speaking up to here, Zhu Xan paused and his expression became more serious. He said in a deep voice, also, I've been stuck at a bottleneck recently. I'm afraid I can't not pick the heart of purgatory. If it's convenient for you, Dragon King, I hope you can find a dragon bloodline beast for me. The purer the bloodline, the better. After the matter is done, Zhu Xan will definitely repay you. We're all friends. It's natural to help each other. It's just that, Lin Yuan smiled, but immediately showed an expression of wanting to say something. Chapter 590. Seeing Lin Yuan's hesitant look, Zhu Xan's expression changed. After a while, he said slowly, strictly speaking, not only do we not have any friendship, but we also have some grudges. But you are also a mature monster. I think you know that there is no absolute relationship in this world, only eternal interests. It is normal for you to help me and I to help you. Speaking of this, Zhu Xan paused and raised his tone slightly. He smiled and said, as long as you can help me, I guarantee that the new beast master of the Hengduan Mountains will be you. Even if the three beast kings object, it won't matter. He was too careless. Only at this moment did Zhu Xan realize that she couldn't look at Lin Yuan with the eyes of those inexperienced little demonic beasts. This was an old fox who had cultivated for thousands of years. He was very good at playing mind games. Just now, he had a hesitant look on his face, which meant that he wanted to get some benefits. And it was not the kind of low level of directly telling him what he wanted, but kicking the ball back to him. Anyway, the final decision was still in Lin Yuan's hands. If Lin Yuan was not satisfied with the conditions he offered, he could always renegotiate. But if the benefits he offered were beyond Lin Yuan's expectations, he would suffer a big loss. After all, everything had a price. Who would be willing to pay a big price? Zhou Xian even felt that the sudden interruption of the greeting between the two sides was also a deliberate attempt by Lin Yuan to find a rhythm and take the initiative. After all, after a few discussions, he could play a few emotional cards and paint a picture of a pie for Lin Yuan. Maybe he would not have to pay anything and the matter would be settled. As soon as he finished speaking, the smile in Lin Yuan's eyes disappeared. He was as cold as a piece of ice that would never melt. Zhou Xian? The atmosphere was inexplicably awkward. Zhou Xian took a deep breath and said with a smile, "Dragon King, is there anything you are not satisfied with?" The position of the new Beast King of the Hengduan Mountains was not as popular as before. After all, after so many years of reproduction, the demonic beasts had completely taken root in the Hengduan Mountains. Even if there was no Beast King court, they could still survive. Therefore, the status of the Beast King court was getting worse year by year. This nominal Beast King was only left with a title. Occasionally, he would mediate the conflict between the Green Marsh clan and Lin Yuan. However, even though their status was not as good as before, it did not mean that they were no longer important. Even though the Monster Beast clan no longer needed a strong leader to lead the entire clan to struggle for survival in the face of the humans, with the Monster Beast royal court around, the matter of exterminating the entire clan would not happen. It was like there was a way to step down from the stage. When both sides had calmed down and felt that their losses were not small, they would go through the Monster Beast royal court to mediate. This mediation was definitely biased. Just like Lin Yuan and the Green Marsh clan before, all the monsters were biased towards Lin Yuan. Even though the Green Marsh clan was many times stronger than the Stoneclaw Forest, they had no choice but to send a green marsh lizard to its death. This way, they could end the conflict between the two sides and avoid greater losses. Therefore, the Monster King court could naturally reap the benefits. As long as the table manners were not bad, this was something that all the monsters tacitly agreed to. At the same time, even if there was no mediation, the monsters who inherited the position of Monster King could also move their clan to the Monster King court to reproduce. That place was the place with the densest lingqi in the entire Hengduan mountain range. Other than a few monster clans that had requirements for their living environment, who wouldn't want to take root in a place with dense lingqi? Don't look at how the Monster King court was filled with Monster King level existences. That was because the Incubus did not have its own clan. It only had a few mixed blood offspring. If the Incubus had a huge clan, how could those Monster Kings enjoy the dense lingqi in the Monster King court? Therefore, the competition for the position of Monster King was still very strong. Even if the three Monster Kings worked together, it would be impossible for them to appoint a monster as the new Monster King. Unless the three Monster Kings worked together with the Incubus, it would be possible to suppress the voices of dissatisfaction in the Hengduan mountain range. However, it was very obvious that Monster King Kirin would not pave this path for Lin Yuan. It was not because the Incubus did not like Lin Yuan, or felt that Lin Yuan was not worthy to be the Monster King. It was because it knew better than the other monsters what kind of background Lin Yuan had. Not to mention the Hengduan mountain range, even the entire Tianwu continent might not be Lin Yuan's stage. Big brother Zhou Xian, do I look like an idiot to you? Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes curved slightly, like a pair of crescent moons. He sneered and said, "If I want the position of Monster King, I can't guarantee that there won't be voices of dissatisfaction. However, I can guarantee that there won't be any other monsters who will dare to compete with me." Lin Yuan's words were also the truth. Just like the e-commerce and food delivery platforms in his previous life, the monsters in the Hengduan mountain range were already used to not having to search for and hunt for their own food. As long as they could afford the price, the monsters in the Hengduan mountain range would be sent to them by caravans. There was also no such thing as starvation due to lack of strength. As long as they could afford the price, they could choose any kind of monster they wanted. If they did not want to eat raw food, the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce also had chefs who were good at preserving the essence of the meat and making dishes. It could be said that this was a rather perfect business chain. As for the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce, of course, they would not hunt monsters. The sources of their ingredients were almost all the trading goods between the various monster clans in the Hengduan mountain range, as well as the monsters who were so poor that they tried to rob caravans of their goods. There were even monsters who could not afford to pay the price and used their bodies to pay the debt. They either hunted or sold their own kind that did not have the qualifications to become great monsters. Don't talk about feelings with monsters. For example, when a creature like a crocodile was born, it was very likely that it could not wait for its young to hatch one by one, so it would eat the weak baby crocodiles along with the eggs that wrapped them. Even monsters with intelligence would not pay too much attention to feelings. In the Hengduan mountain range, where the strong preyed on the weak, every creature except for itself was an enemy. Not to mention, the existence of the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce had benefited the 6 dynasties a lot. The pressure on the Honed Ice Wolf King's side had also been greatly reduced. The war between the two sides was now just a matter of exhausting each other's excess population. It was no longer as fierce as before. Therefore, with the existence of the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce, the days of the monsters in the Hengduan mountain range were like gods. If Lin Yuan were to step down, such days would most likely not exist. God knows how many monsters would cause trouble. Therefore, even if Lin Yuan could not become the Beast King, he would be able to firmly hold the new Beast King by the throat. At the very least, he would be able to stabilize half of the country. Whether or not he became the Beast King did not affect Lin Yuan at all. It would even hinder him from earning resources. Chapter 591. Also, it doesn't matter if I don't become the Beast Master. Instead, you'll be sad, won't you? Lin Yuan's voice was filled with mockery and ridicule. Actually, Zhou Xian's identity was no longer a secret. Otherwise, it wouldn't have come out to establish itself. Incubus didn't touch it, but it didn't mean that he didn't know what it was. He just felt that keeping it alive now could prevent the inferno beasts from overflowing. At the same time, he could also leave a novice gift for the next Beast Master. It was like killing a werewolf. The new Beast Master caught Zhou Xian as soon as he came up, and even calmed the inferno fire that was tormenting the Hengduan mountains. This was a solid achievement. At the same time, it could further increase the Beast Master's prestige. It was the same reason why Qianlong left Tishan behind for Jiaqing. If the other Beast Masters wanted Lin Yuan to become the next Beast Master because of the convenience brought to them by the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce, then Zhou Xian wanted him to become the next Beast Master because it was worried about its own life. Even if all the other Beast Masters opposed Lin Yuan becoming the next Beast Master, Zhou Xian would still jump out and fight with them to the end, let alone the fact that Lin Yuan was already in the bag. Among all the candidates, only Lin Yuan knew about its roots and didn't care about its identity as an inferno beast. With Lin Yuan's talent and bloodline, it wouldn't be a problem for him to live for thousands of years. If it couldn't take that step, it might die before Lin Yuan. Therefore, Zhou Xian was more than willing to let Lin Yuan inherit the position of Beast Master. This was also why Zhou Xian and his subordinates cooperated with the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce. They even went as far as to retrieve their lost goods before the Chamber of Commerce could do anything. However, if Zhou Xian used this condition to negotiate with Lin Yuan, it would be like trying to get a girlfriend. Zhou Xian didn't have high requirements for the purity of dragon blood beast's bloodline. Even a flood dragon like Lin Yuan had far exceeded Zhou Xian's expectations. However, if there was a chance, Zhou Xian would even dare to use Lin Yuan to catch a descendant of a true dragon. Moreover, Lin Yuan had connections with the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Zhou Xian's thoughts naturally became active. Dragon King, you must be joking. With the existence of the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce, you are almost certain to become the Beast Master. However, the problem is that those beasts are not to be trifled with. In human terms, they are also favored by the heavens. They grew up being respected by their clans. Their parents may bow down to you, but they themselves won't. Moreover, the structure of these clans is very complicated. There are always some short-sighted people who think that since you can establish the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce, their clans are stronger and there is no reason why they can't do it. If they kill you, won't the northern frontier and the Hengduan Mountains become their territory? Jiao Xian smiled obsequiously and said in a careful tone, I told you before that you don't have the support of an existence from the wild demon realm. Those clans with ancient inheritances won't take you seriously. I think you can feel this, right? Lin Yuan was silent for a moment before he looked at Jiao Xian with a mocking gaze. He sneered and said, So, it is not a coincidence that the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce has been attacked by the demonic beasts. Some clans of demonic beasts are behind it. If Dragon King needs it, I can help you find out. I can also help you teach them an unforgettable lesson. Jiao Xian's tone gradually relaxed. After all, Lin Yuan's tone had obviously aroused his interest. Ever since the Blackwater Dragon King was born, it had never suffered a loss. Even if there was a conflict between the two sides, it would immediately retaliate. Even if it was Lin Li who schemed against it, it didn't know how many times it had helped the Blackwater Dragon King become a scapegoat. The Blackwater Dragon King killed the emissary sent by the Green Swamp Clan as though the Green Swamp Clan didn't have any prestige. No need. I like to do my own things. Lin Yuan shook his head gently and said expressionlessly, I know what you are planning. But I can tell you that you should throw away your little abacus. The one in the north is indeed a pure-blooded dragon. Its father might be a high-ranking member of the West Sea Dragon Palace, or even a descendant of a true dragon. You're still thinking about it. I'm afraid you're tired of your head, right? Jiao Xian's breathing paused slightly. He did not have eyes and ears like the embroidered uniform guards and the Fiend Emperor Association. He would rather have the Inferno Fiend beasts directly interrogate him than rely on them for information. So he only knew that Lin Yuan had a dragon bloodline fiend beast from the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas by his side. He had never thought that the other's father could be a descendant of the true dragon. For a race with low reproductive ability like the dragon race, even a descendant of a side branch was incomparably important. If he really tricked Ao Qian into becoming a sacrifice for the Inferno Heart, it would not be the next beast master that would take his life. He might not even have the chance to see the next beast master. Brother Jiao Xian, have you heard of the evil dragon? Lin Yuan suddenly changed the topic, pouring a bucket of cold water over Jiao Xian's head to cool him down. Jiao Xian nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, I know a little. I heard that there are always some unruly dragon bloodline fiend beasts in the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. They repeatedly violate the taboos of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Such beings are collectively called the evil dragon. Those who have committed grave sins are usually killed on the spot. Those who have committed lesser sins are imprisoned at the bottom of the sea, never to rise again. The existence of the evil dragon was not a secret. Even the powerful dragon race had to abide by the rules. Because no matter how powerful the dragon race was, they were only one of the rule makers. Their lives were better than the fiend beasts in the Hengduan mountain range, but that was only because the sea was not suitable for human survival. It did not mean that the human demon slayers did not covet the dragon race's flesh and fiend core. The fiend beasts with the blood of divine beasts in their bodies could directly cleanse the muscles and marrow of ordinary people. Once the dragon race offended the public, it was not impossible for the entire race to be exterminated. Therefore, the dragon race of the Four Seas had zero tolerance for the existence of the evil dragon. Their methods of punishment were incomparably cruel. I will soon make a trip to the Dragon Palace of the West Sea. At that time, I will find a way to create an evil dragon for you. At that time, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas will not reprimand you and me. As for the existence that can become an evil dragon, regardless of strength or bloodline, it can be considered the best among the dragon race. At the very least, the purity of its bloodline will not be inferior to mine. It completely meets your requirements, brother. When Lin Yuan said this, there was a faint glimmer in his heterochromatic eyes. Then, he asked with a smile, what do you think? This isn't too appropriate? Won't it be too difficult? Jiao Xian was somewhat agitated as he twisted his body. However, he subconsciously felt that something was wrong. Chapter 592. What's wrong? Zhu Xian pondered for a moment, and suddenly figured it out. This bastard was trying to paint a picture for him. He only said that he was going to the West Sea Dragon Palace, but he didn't say when. He didn't even know if he could get back an evil dragon by then. The only thing he was sure of was that by then, this Black Zhao's strength would not be inferior to his. Even if he broke the contract, it wouldn't be a big deal. Anyway, he wouldn't dare to fall out with him. Even when Lin Yuan's strength was not as good as it was still the same. After all, the position of the Beast King was empty. Once Lin Yuan died, the next step would be the bloody and merciless purge of the Beast King. What's wrong with that? The West Sea Dragon Palace wants to be on good terms with me. Don't they have any considerations? Lin Yuan rolled his eyes and sneered. I don't King believe that the West Sea Dragon King, who controls a quarter of the Endless Sea, would be interested in a nobody like me. If I had to force him to be interested, then he would be interested in my method of transforming from a snake into a flood dragon. Can't I use this secret to exchange for an evil dragon? Isn't the West Sea Dragon Palace too insincere? Even an evil dragon with lesser sins would be imprisoned at the bottom of the sea for its entire life. If he could use an evil dragon to exchange for Lin Yuan's method of purifying his bloodline, let alone 1, even 10, or 100 evil dragons wouldn't be a big deal. If the West Sea Dragon Palace wasn't willing to do such a thing, then they were indeed insincere. The World Tyrant song once again played its role. A powerful influence permeated Lin Yuan's words. Even Zhu Xian felt that this was the way things should be. He had to admit that he was really tempted at this moment. Then, what do you need me to do? Zhu Xian swallowed a mouthful of saliva, stared at Lin Yuan with a burning gaze, and said in a sincere tone, to be honest, even though I was almost killed by that bastard Mo Yuan, the power of a dead tiger is still there. If I get angry, my explosive power is not inferior to that of the fire Qilin. Even if I can't defeat the Hengduan Mountains, I can still break their teeth. As long as brother asks, I will do my best to do it. After getting a tempting condition from Lin Yuan, Ma Xian's calmness, which had been tempered thousands of times, had even been able to restrain the violent aura brought about by the purgatory beasts, had disappeared. It seemed that at this moment, as long as Lin Yuan said a word, it would immediately go up a mountain of swords and down a sea of fire. Brother Mo Xian, you must be joking. I think that although your forces have been expanding very quickly during this period of time, your days haven't been easy, right? Although you say that you don't care about life and death in the Hengduan mountain range, in fact, you've already started to arrange a way out. So, you must have heard about the situation in the outside world, right? Lin Yuan curled up his body and his expression gradually became serious. He said in a deep voice, Brother, I don't have any other requests. As long as you can hand over the sky demon that escaped into the Hengduan mountain range, I'll definitely fulfill the conditions that I promised you before. Not to mention the system's affirmation, even if Lin Yuan's thoughts diverged, it was only a matter of time before he found Ma Xianxian. Although the Inferno Demon Beast and the Sky Demon were not the same kind, in the end, both of them were filled with ruthlessness. If the Sky Demon had to choose a suitable ally to fight in the Hengduan mountain range or the northern frontier, then Ma Xianxian would undoubtedly be the best partner. In addition, with the existence of spies like Su Nan and Zhang Qilin, when that first generation attacked, it was very likely that it would directly overturn the northern frontier. Therefore, the Sky Demon found Ma Xianxian. It was reasonable. Brother, don't be so full of yourself. I'm saying this to let you know that I'm very clear about the Sky Demon situation. If you casually hand over a few Sky Demon to complete your mission, then be prepared to fight with me. Lin Yuan was not afraid at all. He didn't even care about Ma Xianxian's thoughts. His straightforward words immediately made Ma Xianxian's face turn ugly. He couldn't even understand how the Black Zhao knew that the Sky Demon had found him. If it were other Beast Kings, they might have suspected that Lin Yuan had spies under their command. However, Ma Xianxian was different. All the Inferno Demon Beasts under its command were simple-minded. Ma Xianxian had already spent a lot of effort to make them overcome their desire to kill, let alone lurking to gather information. Could it be that this black Jiao could control the inferno demon beasts? Was this a joke? Ma Xiao didn't feel any similar aura from Lin Yuan. Brother, what do you mean? Ma Xiao still pretended to be stupid and asked with a smile. Although the sky demon had nothing to do with the inferno demon beasts, it was still an eventful time. Under the surging undercurrents in the northern frontier, Lin Yuan didn't have the opportunity to take care of the matters in the Hengduan mountain range for the time being. Moreover, the matters in the Hengduan mountain range were hard to predict. Even if the three beast kings and Ma Xiao thought highly of Lin Yuan as the next beast king, Lin Yuan didn't have a desolate demon realm expert by his side. It was hard to predict the thoughts of those big clans. If Lin Yuan was suddenly assassinated when the answer was about to be revealed, then it would be a big joke. Therefore, Ma Xiao didn't plan to put all his eggs in one basket. When necessary, he would cooperate with the Sky Demon to take over the northern frontier and replace Lin Yuan's position. It wasn't impossible to establish an invincible position first. But now that Lin Yuan had opened his mouth, it wasn't as simple as having him break off relations with the Sky Demon clan. He wanted him to completely stand on the opposite side of the Sky Demon clan. I will definitely kill that first talent. As for the other Sky Demon clans, you can hand over as many as you want. I won't force you. In any case, only death awaits them. Lin Yuan slightly narrowed his eyes. His gaze was a bit blurry, but Ma Xiao saw danger in those complicated eyes. He even had a faint premonition that if he didn't agree to Lin Yuan's request, he might not even be able to leave alive. This kind of feeling made his hair stand on end. It was like a little white rabbit running around randomly and suddenly running into the nest of a top predator. Looking at Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes, he felt like a hungry beast was staring at him. If Ma Xiao had sweat glands, his entire body would be covered in cold sweat. This kind of feeling was too terrifying. Using the words like falling into an ice cave to describe it would be too light. The most terrifying thing was that at this moment, Ma Xiao didn't doubt that Lin Yuan had the ability to easily kill him. After a moment of silence, Ma Xiao suddenly bit his lip. With a bitter expression, he said, "All right then. Compared to those capricious Sky Demon clans, I am more willing to believe in you. I will go back and prepare. When the time comes, I will give you the news. How about it?" Chapter 593. Zhu Xian was not arrogant enough to say that he would deal with the Sky Demon himself. After all, he did not have a demon-suppressing artifact. If he acted rashly, he would only be able to capture the Sky Demon's bodies. Once their spiritual bodies left their bodies, it would be even harder to catch them. If he gave the soulless bodies to Lin Yuan, there would be no difference between the two sides turning on each other. Not only had it offended Lin Yuan, but it had also offended the heavenly demon. If something were to happen, there would be no place for it in the Hengduan Mountains. It was still unknown whether it could leave the Hengduan Mountains alive. That would be for the best. Lin Yuan nodded with a smile, as if he was not surprised by Zhu Xian's reaction. This kind of understatement answer immediately caused Zhu Xian to fall into a trance again. This guy seems to have the strength to kill me. After Zhu Xian left, Lin Yuan retreated more than 10 meters and immersed his body in the lake water again. His powerful aura mixed with the dragon's might, and the underwater creatures were so scared that they frantically stayed away from the water, not daring to come any closer. The last time Lin Yuan came back, he caught a big carp about 7 meters long. In just a few days, the first batch of demonic beasts had been born in this lake. Although they were all in the Spirit Awakening realm, in terms of size, let alone the Spirit Awakening realm, even Lin Yuan, who had just entered the Wisdom Enlightenment realm, was like a little brother to them. Their combat power was far inferior. It was clear that Lin Yuan's rapid growth was not without a price. Although its size would increase every time it leveled up, strictly speaking, it was still underdeveloped. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so much room for it to increase its attribute points. Although it could fight above its level, it was still far from reaching its peak. Other monsters that lived in places with insufficient spiritual energy to cultivate were even worse than this underdeveloped one. Look at these monsters that were born in places where spirit chi was almost solid. Oh. Good guy. Even though they had yet to reach the spirit awakening realm, their bodies were still massive. They could easily reach 10 meters in length, and even the weaker demonic beasts might not be a match for them, let alone the demonic beasts that had become demonic beasts. Any random fish could reach 30 to 40 meters in length. Although the demonic beasts that gradually grew up in such an environment did not break through as fast as those that were underdeveloped, their strength would quickly reach the peak after every breakthrough. Moreover, it was the kind of comprehensive development. According to this trend, in less than 30 years, his lair would become the holy land of the demonic beasts. Not to mention that the green leaf water lotus needed at least 9,000 years to mature. That sacred flower, which grew on its own and was even able to send Lin Yuan away, would turn that lair into a place of treasured feng shui when the time came. It was really unknown what kind of place that lair would turn into. Maybe one would not be able to ascend to the heavens just by inhaling a whiff of the spirit chi, but one would definitely be able to step into the airborne realm. Lin Yuan slowly closed his eyes as he felt the spirit chi around him being absorbed into his body, falling into a deep sleep. He liked such relaxation very much, as it eased his tense nerves. As such, Lin Yuan basically spent all his time soaking in the lake below his lair whenever he had the time. He did not even bother to use his body when there was no need to sell things in person. The starlight projection visualized from the star accumulation diagram was more than enough to satisfy the northern frontier, which was slowly getting on the right track. However, there was obviously no chance for him to rest on that day. Thud. 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 A series of heavy footsteps woke Lin Yuan up from his slumber. Even though his consciousness was not completely awake, when he heard the sharp whistling sound in his ears, Lin Yuan's body's natural reaction had already made him make a dodging action. With just a move of his body, he had already pulled away by hundreds of meters. By the time Lin Yuan came back to his senses, he saw that more than half of the lake in front of him had been emptied. The water that was stirred up had converged into a white water pillar that was over 1,000 meters tall. Based on the height of that water pillar alone and how long it could last, Lin Yuan was able to tell that even an airborne realm cultivator would have their sternum crushed if they were to take that water pillar head-on. So, what was that just now? Did someone just throw a nuclear weapon at me while I was sleeping? At that moment, a dark light flashed and that thick pillar was split in half from the middle. Lin Yuan saw the black spear coming close to his forehead in an instant. While it had yet to touch him, the scales on his forehead were already pressuring him. The shockwave alone was enough to overwhelm his defenses. His beastly instincts were warning him in a frenzy. Viroom. A crisp sound was heard. The black spear went straight into the ground. At that moment, the water pillar had completely fallen and filled the lake again. A tall and slender figure slowly appeared in Lin Yuan's line of sight. His skin was fair and clear, and his face was like jade. His eyebrows were sharp and his eyes were bright. He was wearing white clothes and holding a folding fan in his hand. That kind of appearance made him look like a noble young master. It was a pity that this person's attire did not live up to his appearance. His upper body was naked, and his lower body was only wrapped in a layer of animal skin. It was just that his body was thin and did not have the developed muscles to match his attire. You are? Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly and asked with some confusion. This person did not have the aura of a sky demon. Those sky demons soaked in the black water of the netherworld realm did not give him any warning. However, Lin Yuan could not recall that he had such an enemy. After all, being good-looking was also a kind of talent. Regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, good looks were always easy to remember. Lin Yuan's memory was not bad. Coupled with the other party's good looks, he should be able to quickly recall this person's identity. However, he could not recall when he had offended such a person. If there was no enmity between them, then this person was an assassin or a demon slayer? But this did not seem very possible. Even those people in the northern frontier did not know where his true body was. How could an assassin find him? Although the demon slayer's words were not impossible, it was hard to understand. After all, this person had such strength. Not to mention killing the beast kings of the desolate demon realm, he was more than capable of dealing with ordinary mountain lords. The depths of the Hengduan mountain range were the hunting grounds of such demon slayers. However, he was currently at the edge of the demonic beast forest. No matter how he thought about it, it did not make sense for him to be targeted by a powerful demon slayer. Moreover, there was no demon slayer association in the northern frontier now. Those idle demon slayers had either been killed or left. Those who were unwilling to leave had basically joined the association of the Demon Emperor or the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce. He could be considered the boss behind the scenes. It did not make sense for him to be ambushed by his own people, did it? Chapter 594. Lin Yuan didn't make a move immediately. Instead, he inquired about the other party's identity. The man was obviously stumped by the question. After a moment of silence, he reached out and took out a piece of white paper from his waist. After glancing at the contents, he cleared his throat and said, Lin Lisheng, male, 31 years old, born, Lin Yuan. What the F***CK? Is this big brother so perfunctory? If he doesn't want to reveal his identity, he can just pretend to be aloof and continue to make a move. If not, he can just coldly say something like, damn monster doesn't need to know who I am. Wouldn't that make him look pretentious? You took out a piece of paper with your identity and background and read it to me. Should I say you're stupid, or do you think I'm stupid? The man in front of him, who was suspected to be a Heaven Star Realm cultivator, continuously introduced himself with close to 2,000 words. He even told Lin Yuan what he liked to eat and what he disliked to eat. Instantly, Lin Yuan was filled with the desire to ridicule him. At this moment, the man put the piece of paper back into his waist with a solemn expression and said slowly, that's all. You already know who I am. Can you die now? Lin Yuan? She even felt a familiar BGM playing beside her. Little friend, do you have a lot of question marks? However, ridicule was just ridicule. At this moment, even if Lin Yuan wasn't completely awake and was a little confused by the other party, he could still tell that this man who called himself Lin Lisheng was a strong enemy. Moreover, he was so strong that even he felt threatened. Although he might not be a match for you if you unleash your full strength, I don't suggest you kill him. Otherwise, you'll know what it means to be hunted down by powerhouses no matter where you go. Just as Lin Yuan planned to make the first move to gain the upper hand, the system, which was used to playing dead, actually took the initiative to show a line of words. You know him? Lin Yuan was slightly stunned. He was well aware of what kind of plaything the system was. This Lin Lisheng could actually make the system give such an evaluation. Could it be that his parents were some kind of big shot? This possibility was not impossible. Although Lin Lisheng claimed to be 31 years old, he looked like he was only in his 20s. Even if one's cultivation reached a certain level, one would be able to retain one's youthful appearance forever, but what was fixed was still the appearance at that time. In other words, no matter how old this Lin Lisheng was, he would only be in his 20s when he cultivated to the realm of retaining his youthful appearance forever. The word genius wasn't enough to describe such an existence. He should be called a monster. Without a certain background and resources, it would not be easy to nurture such a monster. I don't know him, but I can feel the power of the laws on his body. To be precise, he's not just coming for you. Even I am his hunting target. Trust me, if you can't shake him off, just wait for him to harass you until one of you is completely dead. You're not an existence of this world. Anyone with a little bit of cultivation can see your roots. Although I and the Ink Kirin have helped you cover up, you still can't hide from the supreme laws of this world. In the eyes of the laws, you're an incomparably dazzling existence. As long as you do something that interferes with the normal operation of this world, it will send such an existence to kill you. You should know that the Tianwu continent doesn't have the three realms of heaven, earth, and man. Behind the divine gate of this world are all Hongjuan's lackeys. Regardless of whether it's the cultivators of this world or the laws of this world, they are incomparably repelled from entering the Tianwu continent. Otherwise, why do you think those mighty people are willing to give up everything and spontaneously organize to guard the divine gate? The laws of this world affect those top-notch cultivators to ensure that everything is within the laws. However, there will always be some extraordinary people who will destroy the trajectory calculated by the laws. If the impact is small, the laws don't even have to show up to fix it. If the impact is large like yours, the laws will directly kill your existence. The system displayed again. Lin Yuan was silent for a moment before he gritted his teeth and said, "Then don't wait for him to harass me. I'll King kill him now." Lin Yuan felt a ball of fire burning in his heart. What did he do? He didn't even know what he did. How did he affect the normal operation of this world? Were the laws of the Tianwu continent so overbearing? Was sleeping also against the law? Among the other hosts that I've nurtured, many of them have experienced situations where they were targeted by the laws of this world. Some of them fled when they saw that the situation was not good. They waited for the laws to slowly fix the loopholes before they came out again. They were still good men. There were also some who didn't listen to advice and insisted on fighting with the laws. The grass on their graves is probably as tall as you now. Let me give you a word of advice. A strong dragon cannot suppress a snake in its old haunts. The laws of this world don't welcome Hung Jun, and similarly, they don't welcome me either. It can't tolerate a transmigrator like you, especially one who has formed a relationship with me and the underworld at the same time. It seems like you have the intention of mending this world. If it were you, would you be able to endure it? The one that appeared in front of you today is only a carrier of the laws that was temporarily given a mission. If you insist on going against the laws, I can give you a typical example. You should have heard of the story of the Grand Magus Lu Xiu, right? The system slowly displayed a line of words. Lin Yuan was speechless. If the system said that, then he would really be convinced. Those who had a little understanding of history would know that Lu Xiu was actually an emperor who was not outstanding in politics or martial arts. The only thing he could boast about in his life was his almost heaven-defying luck. In a situation where the number of people, the support of the people, and the equipment were far inferior to Wang Mang's, he was able to turn the tables and overthrow Wang Mang's new dynasty, restoring the rule of the Great Han. In addition, Wang Mang was extremely biased towards the various reforms of Lin Yuan's previous life, so he was once jokingly called a transmigrator. In addition, his continuous battles with Lu Xiu, who was in existence with heaven-defying luck, was also jokingly called a transmigrator by the netizens of his previous life. If it was in his previous life, Lin Yuan might have treated these things as a joke. However, after he became a transmigrator, he felt that Wang Mang's treatment was very bad. Especially after he took control of the northern frontier and completed a series of reforms, he felt that he was extremely similar to Wang Mang. There were some things that were even more terrifying. Had Wang Mang been assassinated before? The answer was, of course, yes. After all, putting aside those jokes, a person who gave land to the commoners would definitely be on the opposite side of the aristocratic families. Even Lin Yuan, who had absolute power to suppress, had a hard time dealing with it, so how could Wang Mang have handled it with ease? So, Wang Mang had also forcefully resisted the assassination of the laws and did not die, and thus created Lu Xiu, the child of the dimension. Chapter 595. Lin Yuan was silent for a moment, then said in a muffled voice, "Isn't it a little too late for me to escape now?" Seeing Lin Lixing pull out a black spear from who knows where, Lin Yuan felt his eyelids twitching crazily. The rules of a world could affect the will of countless living beings. Even someone as strong as Hung Jun was firmly rejected on the other side of the heavenly gate, unable to enter. Now, Lin Yuan was no different from a dead person in the eyes of the rules. But if he killed Lin Lixing, Lin Yuan's threat level would be infinitely magnified in the eyes of the rules. At that time, he would really become the child of destiny, and the foundation that he had painstakingly built would all go down the drain. As the most failed transmigrator senior, Wang Mang's name could be said to be illustrious. Lin Yuan did not wish to become a man on the same level as Wang Mang. Furthermore, even if he wanted to run, where could he run to? Regardless of whether it was the Stoneclaw Forest or the northern frontier, his foundation was right there. If he chose to give it up, it would be no different from the child of destiny that was created by the rules. Name, Lin Lisheng. Status, God's blessing, carrier of the rules, realm. Talent, 1. 2. 3. Speed. Defense. Attack. Martial arts. Skills. Items. At this moment, the results of the Eye of God appeared in front of Lin Yuan. After a moment, Lin Yuan felt that there were as many question marks in his head as there were on Lin Lisheng's stats panel. What the F***ck is this? After a scan, he knew the name that Lin Lisheng had read out, and a status that he did not know what it meant. The rest were all question marks. This Eye of God special effect was probably bought at a high price, right? Lin Lisheng casually waved the spear in his hand and said with a cold face, Lin Yuan, you've disrupted the heavens time and time again, and you're still cultivating the power of misfortune. With an existence like you, the Tianwu continent will never have a day of peace. At this point, he raised his chin slightly and added, I advise you to surrender so that you won't suffer any physical pain. By the time he finished speaking, the black spear in his hand had already been thrown out. In the blink of an eye, it had pierced through Lin Yuan's body. Lin Lisheng was even a little doubtful that he had completed the attack on his target so easily. He lowered his head and looked at his own hands, then looked at the motionless Lin Yuan. He secretly pondered in his heart. Could it be that this guy had really surrendered without putting up a fight? Before Lin Lisheng could confirm his point of view, Lin Yuan in front of him suddenly exploded, turning into specks of starlight and dissipating. At this moment, the doubt on Lin Lisheng's face slowly dissipated. He suddenly turned his head to look ahead and growled, Run? Let's see where you can run to. As the carrier of the rules, Lin Lisheng could communicate with the rules at all times. He naturally knew that Lin Yuan was not dead, so he did not have time to worry about Lin Yuan's whereabouts. Lin Lisheng once again took out a black spear, turned into a stream of light and rushed forward. After Lin Lisheng was completely gone, the calm lake once again surged with waves. A black flood dragon's head slowly rose from the surface of the water. The black flood dragon's scales were still incomparably dry, as if it had not been soaked in the lake water at all. Lin Yuan sized up the other party's back that was getting further and further away, and carefully asked, this guy, was he really deceived? There was no free lunch in the world. If there was, then you would definitely be the main dish. In order to hide the detection power of the rules, Lin Yuan had asked the system to help him cover up, and the price was 1,500 attribute points. This was a huge sum of money to him in the past, but it was thrown into the sea just like that. He did not even hear a sound, but the effect seemed to be quite good. At least at this moment, Lin Lisheng had no intention of turning back at all. It was obvious that he was following the feedback of the rules and going to catch Lin Yuan. There is no foolproof plan in the world. I only gave you a disguise. Although it can temporarily deceive the rules, it is not a long-term solution. For the time being, it's best that you don't show your power in front of others. Otherwise, you might be blocked by Lin Lisheng. After all, although the rules can't sense your existence, they can sense your existence through the feedback of other living beings. In other words, if you stay here for the rest of your life, I guarantee that the rules won't discover your existence. However, if you leave the nest and are discovered by the rules, then it won't be my problem anymore. Also, products made by the system are not refundable. The system showed another line of words, very much like an unscrupulous merchant. Lin Yuan was speechless. You don't have to worry about the rules playing tricks on you. Just like I said, both you and I will be restricted by the rules. Just like the heavenly court controlled by a certain human king in your previous life, there was a heavenly law that seemed to have countless loopholes. That was also a kind of rule, and not something that the Jade Emperor or Queen Mother could change. Even if it was unreasonable to sever one's emotions, it would not be easy to violate. Many people confuse the heavenly Tao with the rules, but in reality, that is not the case. Let me give you an example that you can understand. The rules are in existence like a computer network, and the heavenly Tao is a computing AI. Through continuous learning, the AI may give birth to its own will, but there is no way to change the form of the computer itself. No matter how powerful the AI is, it will be completely dead once it is formatted. However, at the same time, the AI will be limited, and the computer itself will be limited by its own equipment. Therefore, the rules themselves have to abide by the rules. Just like this time, if you kill the carrier of the rules have many tricks to deal with you. However, you did not directly kill the carrier of the rules, so your danger rating did not rise. Even if it finds you next time, it can only use an existence like the carrier of the rules to assassinate you. The system's words made Lin Yuan ponder. According to what you said, the rules are the computer itself, and the heavenly Tao is the AI produced by the network's computing. Then, wouldn't a transmigrator like me be a kind of virus? Lin Yuan asked with an ugly expression. Just like some harmless viruses that enter the computer will hardly attract attention, but harmful viruses will affect the operation of the computer and even cause the system to crash or become uncontrollable. In this way, whether it is the computer or the AI, they will find ways to kill this harmful virus. Now, in the eyes of the rules, you are this harmful virus. It will frantically try to eliminate you as a threat, but the firewall of the rules itself cannot be adjusted at will. As long as you do not break the current difficulty, it will not mention the next difficulty to you. That is why I suggest you run away. The system displayed again. Although he could not see the system's expression, Lin Yuan had a feeling that it was gloating. Chapter 596. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yuan tried his best to calm himself down. Other than being mentally exhausted, he needed to start brainstorming. What was the problem that caused the rules to raise his threat level and send out antivirus software to kill a virus like him? Was it a problem with the Northern Frontier's new laws and regulations that he came up with? Lin Yuan had his suspicions, but he could not be sure. After all, Wang Mang had taken this path and was targeted by the rules. If there are rules and restrictions, the strength of the antivirus software that appears for the first time will not be much higher than the virus. Judging from Wang Mang's means of subverting the rule of the Han dynasty, let alone an assassin, even if Jing Ku reincarnated or Gun Ye reincarnated, they would not be able to assassinate him. Therefore, the failure of the first antivirus was completely expected, and even the failure of several antivirus did not surprise Lin Yuan. Therefore, after the assassination failed, the next step was to create a child of destiny. What if the child of destiny failed? What would the next step be? Thinking about this, Lin Yuan felt like he was targeted by the rules, and it was not because of the Northern Frontier's reforms. After all, he had not been doing this for a day or two. If the rules were unhappy with him, they would have given him a warning a long time ago. Why would they wait until today? Or did something happen that caused the rules' power to be irreparable, causing the script to deviate from its control, so the rules increased his threat level? Thinking about this, Lin Yuan felt like he had caught onto something. Lei Qiusheng, the emperor who used the power of the aristocratic families to usurp the throne. If he was not mistaken, the rules had been dissatisfied with his actions at the Northern Frontier for a long time. Furthermore, they had been using the power of the rules to repair the situation. If everything went smoothly, Lei Qiusheng would gain the upper hand in the upcoming war and slowly nibble away at him. When the Northern Frontier was completely defeated, Lei Qiusheng would once again complete his unification, and the script would once again return to the hands of the rules. However, he was not the only variable that the rules had to face this time. The existence of the Sky Demon had turned Lei Qiusheng, who was originally thought highly of by the rules, into a puppet emperor. Although he had managed to escape, he had managed to sneak into the Northern Frontier without anyone noticing. As a result, no matter how many trump cards Lei Qiusheng had, as long as he was still in Lin Yuan's hands, he would never be able to cause any trouble. But the question was it because Lei Qiusheng's willpower was so strong that the rules couldn't affect him, or was it because Lei Qiusheng had calculated all of this would happen, so he deliberately went to the Northern Frontier, and then used the rules to get rid of Lin Yuan? Then, he waited for an opportunity to take over the Northern Frontier, and conspired to revive the Shenwu dynasty. No matter what the reason was, Lei Qiusheng seemed to be extremely terrifying. At the same time, Far away in the northern frontier, Lei Qiusheng sneezed twice for no reason. Then, he got up with a puzzled expression and closed the window. The northern frontier might be really strange. Some places in the south might have already started to snow, but on the northern frontier, other than the roads that had been cleared by people, there was still a thick layer of snow piled up everywhere. However, when one walked out of the door, they wouldn't feel cold. However, that bone-piercing chill couldn't be concealed. Otherwise, how could a cultivator in the late stage of the Heavenly Dipper realm like him possibly sneezed? At his level of cultivation, he didn't dare to say that he was immune to all diseases, but he was usually full of vigor. A small illness like a cold was like a non-existent existence to cultivators. Knock. Knock. Just as Lei Qiusheng closed the window, someone knocked on the door. Getting up and opening the door, Lei Qiusheng saw 1,000 household of the embroidered uniform guard wearing a white Kirin uniform standing in front of him. The 1,000 household of the embroidered uniform guard clasped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, we found Sherdong's corpse. We suspect that he was killed by you. Please come with us to cooperate with the investigation." Lei Qiusheng looked at the embroidered uniform guard in front of him with a head full of confusion. He muttered in his heart. Could it be that this group of people was thinking of a way to plot against him? Although he had escaped for some distance, he didn't even cross the Wei River. He was still brought to the northern frontier by Yan Xingqi. He was under Yan Xingqi's supervision the entire time. How could a mere Heavenly Dipper realm cultivator, even if he was in the late stage of the Heavenly Dipper realm, face a void realm big shot like Yan Xingqi? Kill himself? How could that be? Not to mention that he didn't have the opportunity to do so when he was by Yan Xingqi's side. Even if he had the opportunity, why did he have to kill someone? Also, who was Sherdong? This name was a little unfamiliar, seeing that Lei Qiusheng didn't move, even though the embroidered uniform guard didn't flare up, his eyes revealed a look of impatience. He couldn't help but lower his voice and urge, "Your Majesty, please cooperate with us." After all, killing someone in the northern frontier's new law will be punished with capital punishment if there is no special reason. Even if there is a special reason, you will still have to serve hard labor. The specific circumstances will depend on the severity of the case. Lei Qiusheng opened his mouth, but when the words reached his mouth, he softly said, "Lead the way." He wasn't in existence like Zhou Xinghai. He was very clear about his current situation. If he didn't have the protection of the northern frontier, he might not even be able to survive a day under the pursuit of the Sky Demon. Not to mention that the other party seemed to be telling the truth. Even if the other party was plotting against him, he had to bite the bullet and jump into the hole. However, while he was sullen, Lei Qiusheng also developed a bit of interest in the northern frontier's new law. This northern frontier's new law, as well as the new policies that Lin Yuan had pushed out, Lei Qiusheng had carefully studied them all. Even though he admired them, he knew that if he didn't have the power to challenge the aristocratic families, even if he pushed it out, it would be useless. Instead, it would cause the aristocratic families and even the imperial family to be dissatisfied with him. The Xinwu dynasty's law was much stricter than the northern frontier's new law. However, to use a phrase from Lin Yuan's previous life to describe it, the punishment couldn't be inflicted on the scholarly officials. Those officials, tyrants, and aristocratic children all enjoyed certain privileges. Even if they broke the law, they could use compensation to reduce or even directly exempt themselves from the punishment. As for whether or not this compensation would be taken back in the future, that was something that everyone understood. However, it was completely different in the northern frontier. Just a simple sentence like, "The emperor is punished the same as the commoners" was something that Lei Qiusheng couldn't do. If the other party was plotting against him, then he would just treat it as if he was blind. However, if it wasn't against him, and it was the truth, then it would be too interesting. Thinking up to here, Lei Qiusheng became more and more interested in the Black Jiao. He even wanted to immediately meet Lin Yuan. Chapter 597. Luo Su's face was gloomy as he squatted beside a corpse covered with a white cloth. Although he and Sherdong had not been enemies for long, they were familiar with each other. Thus, the moment he saw the corpse, he was certain that it was Sherdong himself. But that was where the problem lay. The secret passageway that Sherdong had secretly built had been thoroughly investigated by Luo Su. There were countless forks in the secret passageway. It seemed that all of them were safe paths, but there were only 3 paths that could be considered safe paths. Furthermore, the exits of these 3 paths were all guarded by the tiki of the embroidered uniform guards. The ones leading them were at least at the level of a qianhu. With such a lineup, even the present Li Zhong had no possibility of escaping alive, let alone Sherdong, whose cultivation was lacking. However, none of the 3 ambushes had succeeded. Instead, Sherdong's corpse had been nailed to the main gate of the embroidered uniform guard's yamen without anyone noticing. The embroidered uniform guard who was on duty today had been scared out of his wits. After all, nailing a corpse to the door of the embroidered uniform guard's office was not something that an ordinary person could do. Sherdong had mysteriously disappeared into the tunnel, and there were no abnormalities at the 3 exits. This was enough to prove that the person who had killed Sherdong was not to be trifled with. It was even beyond the embroidered uniform guard's capabilities. At the same time, the other party's actions were a harsh slap to the embroidered uniform guard's face. Wasn't the embroidered uniform guard awesome? They monitored the northern frontier, and even the king of the northern frontier was no exception. Not only had their mission target been taken away under their noses, but the other party had also used extremely insulting means to nail the corpse to the door of the embroidered uniform guard's office. Although they did not know the identity of the other party, their actions were filled with thick malice. At this moment, the qianhu of the embroidered uniform guard, wearing a Kirin uniform, led Lei Qiusheng to the embroidered uniform guard's office. The moment he saw the corpse, Lei Qiusheng frowned before Luo Su could speak. His eyes were filled with shock. When he had first heard of Sherdong's death, he had thought that the Imperial Secret Service had set him up, but now, he had changed his mind. Sherdong's death was not tragic, but it was definitely not normal. All the bones in his body were twisted in a strange way. Other than his head, which was still in a normal position, there was not a single bone in his body that was intact. However, even in such a twisted state, Sherdong's body did not look strange. If one did not look carefully, they would think that it was no different from an ordinary corpse. There were not even any external injuries. Jade Pill Ghost Fist? Lei Qiusheng couldn't help but exclaim after looking at it for a moment. Jade Pill Ghost Fist, a mystic high-grade martial skill, was a secret skill unique to the divine martial Lei clan. It required a special technique to exert force. Once it was used, it would cause the opponent's internal injuries to be untreatable. In the case of Sherdong, there were not many martial skills that were as vicious and evil as the Jade Pill Ghost Fist. Moreover, looking at Sherdong's injuries, it was at least at the initial stage. This also meant that the killer not only had the cultivation method of the Jade Pill Ghost Fist, but also the supplementary prescription of the Lei clan's secret record. Without 10 years of hard work, one would not even be able to learn this martial skill. Only the Lei clan's descendants, who were originally the top generals of the Myriad Swords dynasty, would be able to learn it. In addition, this martial skill was vicious, not only to the enemy, but also to oneself. Without the supplementary prescription to heal the injuries, one would have already been crippled before they could even learn the martial skill. In the past, this martial skill was a treasure in the eyes of the Lei clan. It was not easily taught to non-direct descendants. After many years of fighting, the older generation of Lei clan's descendants had either died or died. There were no more than 7 people who still grasped the cultivation method of the Jade Pill Ghost Fist, and very few of the Lei clan's descendants were able to learn it. At this point, among the Lei clan's descendants, the only ones who had grasped the Jade Pill Ghost Fist were Lei Qiusheng and Lei Qiuming. At present, Lei Qiuming was still in the south. Whether it was the Southern Rebel Army, the Evil Cult, or the Sky Demon Army, all of them were enough to annoy him. It was impossible for him to give up his foundation and come all the way to the northern frontier to kill people. Even if he had the leisure to do so, the embroidered uniform guards and the Demon the Arch Association were not there for nothing. No wonder, you all suspected me. Lei Qiusheng silently lowered his head. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said, looking at this guy's dead body, even I suspect that I killed him. The saying that a martial skill was not easily taught was not just a saying. The Jade Pill Ghost Fist's manual had been burned after the Lei clan's descendants had completely mastered it. The Lei clan's generations of talents had been taught the martial skill orally by their elders. Even the supplementary medicine was slowly developed by the Lei clan over a long period of time. In the beginning, when the Lei clan's descendants cultivated the Jade Pill Ghost Fist, they were said to be invincible among their peers. However, the manual was too overbearing. Cultivating this martial skill consumed too much of one's body. Even a breakthrough in the cultivation realm could not prolong one's life. No matter how talented one was, it was very difficult for one to live past the age of 60 to cultivate the Jade Pill Ghost Fist. After repeated trial and error and research, the Lei clan's unique elixir, the Jade Pill, was created. The Jade Pill Ghost Fist in the past did not have the prefix Jade Pill. We naturally believe in your majesty. Luo Su slowly got up. His eyes, which were exposed outside the bandages, flashed with a bright light. He said in a low voice, however, Sherdong died at the hands of the Lei clan's unique martial skill. According to the investigation of the embroidered uniform guards, the only Lei Fan who entered the northern frontier was your majesty and Lei Fan. Lei Fan died long ago, and now only your majesty is left. And this Sherdong, at this point, Luo Su paused. He put on a smiling face and continued, this happened after your majesty came to the northern frontier. Your majesty should give us an explanation, right? Lei Qiusheng glanced at Luo Su from the corner of his eyes. He said indifferently, I have accompanied General Yen all the way to the north. Do you all think that I have the ability to hide from a Kongming cultivator and kill someone from afar, and then return to General Yen's side without anyone knowing? In our line of work, we can encounter any kind of case. If we give up the investigation just because it is impossible, wouldn't the world laugh at the incompetence of the embroidered uniform guards? Let me make a bold assumption. For example, Your Majesty and Yen Xingxi conspired to kill the Vice President of the Association of the Demon Emperor in the Northern Frontier, Sherdong. You can then create an alibi for yourself and deliberately divert our attention to other directions? Luo Su did not have the slightest intention of giving Lei Qiusheng any face. He said in a hateful tone, of course, I am just making a bold assumption. I have no intention of making your majesty a scapegoat. Besides, there is no General Yen in the northern frontier. Yen Xingxi's adopted sons and daughters have just reported to the Northern Frontier Academy. It is not yet time for them to be conferred as Marquis. Yen Xingxi himself is also not a general in the northern frontier. Your Majesty, please be careful with your words. Chapter 598. Luo Su openly challenged Lei Qiusheng. This action not only shocked the surrounding imperial secret guards, even Lei Qiusheng had a look of disbelief in his eyes. Even if the northern frontier was powerful now, it was still a vassal territory under the Shenwu dynasty. Under the instructions of Black Snake, they had conferred many positions that were not recognized by the Shenwu dynasty. After all, the northern frontier was their territory, and other than having to pay tribute to the Shenwu dynasty, it was still an independent kingdom. So Lei Qiusheng did not have any excuse to criticize the northern frontier. But Yen Xingxi's title was another matter. Although Yen Xingxi had lost to Lei Qiusheng in the past, and was sent to the northern frontier by Lei Qiusheng out of fear of his ability and prestige. But in name, Yen Xingxi was the guardian of the northern frontier, a second-grade general of the north. Although he did not have any real power, but in name, he controlled all the armies in the northern frontier. Even if everyone knew that Yen Xingxi was a prisoner exiled to the northern frontier, they still had to give him some face. In all these years, there had not been any rumors of discord between Yen Xingxi and the northern frontier army. But in the northern frontier, how come Yen Xingxi did not even have the title of general? This was no longer a problem of Yen Xingxi's position in the northern frontier. This was the northern frontier army openly slapping Lei Qiusheng's face. You were conferred the title of general by Lei Qiusheng? Sorry, the northern frontier does not recognize you. Luo Su was one of the survivors of the destruction of Zhanshan City, and the price he had paid for it was not small at all. He had narrowly escaped death under the frenzied attacks of countless demon beasts and barely managed to survive. However, he suddenly heard that the Shinwood dynasty did not have the slightest intention of using him again. In order to keep the truth of the destruction of Zhanshan City a secret, they had even ordered the 6 border cities to open up a blockade and kill the survivors of Zhanshan City. If not for Lei Fan having his own plans, he, Luo Su, would have long been a dead man. Under the tempering of the purgatory fire, Luo Su had long cultivated a vicious aura. In the past, Lin Yuan had suppressed it, so it would occasionally flare up. Now that he saw Lei Qiusheng, who had caused him to fall to this point, Luo Su naturally could not suppress his temper. However, Lei Qiusheng was, after all, an ambitious and ruthless person. His entire body exuded an aura of a dying tiger. Even though he knew that he was now under the eaves of the northern frontier, he did not want to lower his head. Or rather, he did not want to casually lower his head. Lei Qiusheng narrowed his eyes slightly and sneered, "Does Commander Luo mean that this person must have been killed by me? If so, why did Commander Luo bring me here? You only need to announce that this person died at the hands of my Lei family's secret technique, and then clearly state that I am the only one in the northern frontier who knows this secret technique. Wouldn't that solve the problem?" At this point, Lei Qiusheng laughed and said coldly, "Commander Luo, do you still have any unjust or strange cases in your hands that you cannot solve? Why don't you tell me all of them? I will agree to all of them." As soon as he finished speaking, the corner of Luo Su's mouth twitched twice, but he did not reply. The two of them just looked at each other like this. The atmosphere was inexplicably awkward, and there was a faint murderous aura. "Your Majesty, why are you so angry? In their line of work, isn't it important to make bold assumptions and carefully seek confirmation? If you don't have the courage, how can you sit in the position of commander of the embroidered uniform guards? Not to mention that your Majesty is now very suspicious. Even if your Majesty is not suspicious at all, is there anything wrong with Commander Luo suspecting your Majesty?" An ethereal voice suddenly sounded, breaking the silence between Luo Su and Lei Qiusheng as they looked at each other. After a pause, the voice said again, "Commander Luo is only voicing his own doubts. If your Majesty is truly innocent, why are you not willing to cooperate with Commander Luo's investigation and use evidence to clear yourself of suspicion? Showing such a strong attitude in front of others, could it be that you have a guilty conscience?" When the second voice fell, everyone had already turned their heads to look in the direction of the voice. Even though Lei Qiusheng was now at the end of his road, he was still the true ruler of the Shinwu dynasty. Even if Luo Su had argued with Lei Qiusheng, he only dared to say that he was suspicious. However, this person had spoken so bluntly, as if he did not care about Lei Qiusheng's face at all. Who on earth was this divine being, to actually have such courage? Lei Qiusheng also turned his head and happened to see a man in black whose skin was so pale that it appeared sickly green. There was not a single trace of blood on his body as he strolled over. The outline of his face was as if it had been carved by a knife. His facial features could not be considered exquisite and could barely be considered delicate. He was not much more outstanding than an ordinary person. The only difference was that this person's eyes were completely black, without any white in them. More importantly, there were no signs of life on this person's body at all, as if he was a walking corpse. Even his realm was concealed extremely well by the other party, making it impossible to see through his depth. However, when Lei Qiusheng and the black-clothed man looked at each other, he actually faintly felt a fatal threat. Only the vassal kings of the Shinwu dynasty are qualified to wear an official robe. You actually dare to wear an official robe? Lei Qiusheng still squinted his eyes, looked up and down at the man in black, and clicked his tongue. In ancient times, demonic beasts were rampant, and countless humans relied on a certain great demon to survive. Whether it was blood sacrifices or tributes, they could not be less than the great demon who protected the clan. Even if they could not survive, it was the same. Because of the protection of the great demon, at most the clan would have a hard time, but without the protection of the great demon, humans were just delicious blood food in the Tianwu continent where demonic beasts were everywhere. Great demons were naturally divided into ranks. Even demonic beasts of the same realm were divided into strong and weak bloodlines, just like how a flood snake could never disobey a real dragon. If the great demon who protected a clan was tyrannical, the clan's life would naturally be better. Although demonic beasts were everywhere in that era, the dragon clan was still the existence at the top of the food chain. The strength of a clan protected by the dragon clan was extremely fast, and could easily conquer other clans, complete the unification of a certain area, and become an existence like a king or an emperor. Although today's humans did not need the protection of the great demons, and instead the demonic beast's living space was squeezed to the Hengduan mountain range, some customs of the ancient times were still passed down. According to the rank of the official, the uniforms would be embroidered with different demonic beasts. Not to mention other things, the clan kings who had the protection of the dragon clan liked to call themselves the dragon sons, so the king's uniforms were always embroidered with dragon patterns. Until now, only the emperor of a dynasty was qualified to wear an official robe. The uniforms of the royal family were embroidered with python patterns, and some powerful vassal kings were also able to wear official robes. Of course, there were taboos on the uniforms. If your status was not high enough, you could embroider plum blossoms, orchid, bamboo, chrysanthemum, breeze, and moon on your clothes. However, if you were to learn from the civil and military officials and embroider demonic beasts, you would be convicted of rebellion. If you were to embroider a python and a dragon, it would be a serious crime. Once investigated, your family would be exterminated. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.